Chapter 98, Lu Changxing, a full-time artisan. However, Lu Changxing did glance over and saw that the household consisted only of Gao He and his daughter, as well as 2 servants, which seemed enough for such a large residence. While chatting, Lu Changxing learned that the other party was a middle-grade talisman master who sat in residence at a spiritual talisman shop. Once Gao He learned that Lu Changxing was the owner of the Qingzhou Lu family's spiritual talisman shop, he became noticeably more enthusiastic. He expressed that they could have business dealings in the future. Subsequently, the two also exchanged insights on the art of talisman making. Through the conversation, Lu Changxing roughly concluded that Gao He was at the intermediate level among middle-grade talisman masters, still some distance away from becoming a superior one. After leaving Gao He's home, Lu Changxing also took the opportunity to visit the residence across the street. The person who opened the door was an elderly man, a senior servant of the household. Upon hearing Lu Changxing's intention, he indicated that his master was not in and would only return after the hour of Su each day. Upon hearing this, Lu Changxing apologized for the disturbance and said he would visit again another time. Then, he knocked on the door on the left to pay a visit there. "Who might you be?" The door was opened by a softly featured lady in her 30s, plump yet graceful in figure. Her skin was as white as snow, her eyebrows like emerald feathers, her nose like a distant mountain, and her lips were as rosy as blossoms, with her jet-black hair coiled up into a bun. She was draped in a light blue dress, with a slim waist tightly cinched by a belt, revealing a proud and curvaceous body. A gentle smile graced her lips, emanating a mature charm unique to a beautiful matron. "My name is Lu Changxing. I've just moved in next door, so I've taken the liberty to come and introduce myself." Lu Changxing, with a genial face and a smile, bowed slightly with his hands clasped and presented a gift box containing talismans. Inside were 3 low-grade talismans and 1 middle-grade talisman. After all, a small gift for a new acquaintance need not be too valuable. "So, it's Daoist Lu. Please come in." Upon hearing this, the matron invited Lu Changxing into the courtyard, served tea and water, and called out her husband to greet him. Her husband was a man in his 40s, tall and brawny. This man was entirely different from the genial Gao He, being somewhat taciturn. In his presence, Lu Changxing even sensed a somewhat fierce aura, feeling that this person was not easy to approach. After a brief conversation, Lu Changxing took his leave, mentioning he would be available for future talisman purchases. The man introduced himself as Zhao, who made his living by hunting demon beasts. He told Lu Changxing that if he ever wished to buy demon beast meat, he could come to him. After paying his visits to the 3 neighboring families to the left and right, Lu Changxing returned to his own residence. After a bath, he called upon Xiao Qing and 2 maids, determined to strive for immortality. The next day, just as Lu Changxing was preparing to leave, he heard a knock at the door. Upon opening, he saw a man with a tall stature and a refined appearance of middle age. It was his neighbor from across the way, who, having heard of Lu Changxing's visit yesterday and noticing some activity this morning, took the opportunity to return the visit while at home. The neighbor knew him and was aware that he was the new owner of the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop. Through his self-introduction, Lu Changxing realized that this was the owner of the Jade Meal Hall, whom he had noted several times before. Probably a born businessman, the owner of the Jade Meal Hall was also very amicable. He suggested they should interact more in the future, offering discounts whenever Lu Changxing dined at the Jade Meal Hall. Lu Changxing, too, was the type of person who responded amiably when others spoke kindly to him. After exchanging pleasantries with the man, he finally set off. He thought to himself that among the 3 neighboring families, aside from the somewhat fierce family on the left, the others seemed rather nice. Time flew, and before he knew it, the end of the month was almost upon him. Zhang Shan brought the inventory and list of goods purchased during the month for Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoge to spot check. It took 2 days for the 2 of them to finish inspecting the goods. As before, they found some defective and flawed items, but not too many. This prompted Lu Changxing to inquire if Lu Miaoge's suppliers for the shop weren't long-term partners, why there were always some defective and flawed items in every shipment. Faced with this question, Lu Miaoge merely said that although they were long-term collaborators, only some were fixed and long-term. There were sometimes changes, necessitating the search for new suppliers. Hearing this, Lu Changxing nodded in understanding. He recognized that the Lu family's supply chain was not entirely stable. Thus, quality issues like this were simply unavoidable. Thinking ahead to 2 months from now, when Lu Miaoge would no longer be around to help, Lu Changxing felt a headache coming on. After all, inspecting goods was truly a tedious and grueling task. Once they had completed their checks and handed the confirmed list to Zhang Shan, Lu Changxing also agreed with Lu Miaoge to return to Qingzhou Mountain in 2 days' time. 2 days later, Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoge rode the Iron Feather Eagle back to Qingzhou Mountain. Xiao Qing naturally stayed in Nine Dragons Market, as she could not be expected to follow him around. When he was to return to Nine Dragons Market, he would bring Guan Xian with him too, and with more people, it would be inconvenient. The two had a smooth journey back to Qingzhou Mountain. Upon returning home, Lu Changxing learned that his 25th child had been born. And on the 3rd day after his return, his 26th child was also born. No unexpected surprises occurred. Both children were born without a spiritual root. Lu Changxing took this fact in stride. There was still a month's time before Lu Miaoyan was due to give birth. Lu Changxing had some expectations and paid special attention to the child in Lu Miaoyan's womb. He even thought to himself that perhaps he should stay in Qingzhou Mountain this month to wait for Lu Miaoyan to give birth and see the child before leaving. However, considering that a month after Lu Miaoyan's delivery, it would be time for Chu Zhenshan's child to be born. He couldn't very well wait for one and not the other. Chapter 99. I, Lu Changxing, a full-time artisan. This matter is not about scarcity, but about uneven distribution. If everyone waits, I feel like there's no need for me to go out at all. In the end, Lu Changxing decided to spend the next few days in close companionship. Then, estimating the time, he planned to come home early and stay a few extra days. It could also be considered a special privilege for his wife. During these 3 days at home, Lu Changxing still spent time with his wives and daughters, hardly cultivating or making talismans. This time, going to listen to the 4th elder's talisman instruction, the 4th elder also handed over the talismans for the monthly shop restocking directly to Lu Changxing. The number of talismans wasn't large, consisting of 3 supreme talismans, 30 superior grade talismans, and 30 middle grade talismans. This made Lu Changxing secretly wonder if the 4th elder drew only 1 superior grade and 1 middle grade talisman each day. However, he also remembered that the Lu family had several shops in other marketplaces, and the 4th elder probably needed to supply a portion of the talismans there as well. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed, and Lu Changxing took Lu Miaoge back to Nine Dragons Market. Seeing Lu Changxing return with Guan Xian, Lu Miaoge sighed softly. After all, just last month, she had told Lu Changxing that cultivation level and strength are fundamental. Lu Changxing at that time also firmly agreed. But it hadn't been long since then, and not only did he buy a maid at Nine Dragons Market, but he also brought another maid from home. Nevertheless, she wasn't one to talk too much. Once she had said something, it was enough, and she wouldn't bring it up a second time. After returning to Nine Dragons Market, Lu Changxing used the housing deed to issue Guan Xian a free residency card and settled her in comfortably. He instructed her to communicate with Xiao Qing about anything she needed. Now in this place, Xiao Qing was mainly in charge. In the time that followed, Lu Changxing resumed his comfortable life of daily cultivation, talisman making, childbearing, and going to and from work. During this period, Gao He came over to chat and exchange insights on the talisman path with Lu Changxing. For someone as amiable as Gao He, Lu Changxing was naturally polite, chatting over tea for half an hour and enriching Gao He's understanding considerably. 10 days later, Lu Changxing learned that Xiao Qing was pregnant. He was extremely joyful at this news. After all, Xiao Qing possessed a 9th grade spiritual root, which greatly increased the chances of having a child with a spiritual root. But then, a faint worry emerged in his heart. Whenever there was something to be done, he had always relied on Xiao Qing. Now that Xiao Qing was pregnant, It wasn't good to have her bustling about anymore. Thinking that anybody capable of working by his side would soon be pregnant and unable to work, he realized that he would never have someone stable by his side to handle tasks. I need to find someone, specifically to do the work, to be the steward of this courtyard, Lu Changxing thought to himself. His mind suddenly turned to the beast-eared girls of White Jade Tower. These beast-eared girls were cultivated by White Jade Tower through special methods and secret techniques, rendering them barren. Purchasing one as a steward seemed like a good idea. However, these beast-eared girls were quite expensive. They typically cost several tens of spirit stones, easily exceeding 100 spirit stones. A suitable one for his liking would no doubt cost over 100 spirit stones. To spend over 100 spirit stones on a beast-eared girl seemed too wasteful to Lu Changxing, especially since he was in urgent need of spirit stones at the moment. No, that's not right. I'm not a stud horse, nor is it that women in my yard must become pregnant. If I arrange for 2 maids specifically to do the work and ensure they don't become pregnant, that should do. Lu Changxing came back to his senses, somewhat speechless at his previous thoughts, feeling that he had fallen into a mental trap thinking about childbearing day after day. As a cultivator, he might not be able to guarantee that a woman would become pregnant. But ensuring that a woman doesn't become pregnant was still within his capabilities. Remembering that he still had 7 maids at White Jade Tower yet to be sent to him, he anticipated they would arrive soon. Lu Changxing decided to pick 2 of them to be in charge of household affairs when they arrived. The next day, Gao He came over again to chat and exchange insights on the talisman path with Lu Changxing. This made Lu Changxing shake his head in amusement. In his opinion, as neighbors, this sort of thing should just be an occasional conversation. If they really wanted to talk, there wasn't much to talk about in this area. Mainly because the 2 were not on the same level. Discussing the talisman path with Gao, he was like a professor discussing elementary school homework with a grade school student. However, he also knew that it was his own insightful performances during their past conversations that had led to Gao He's improvements in the talisman path, which is why he kept coming back. This time, Lu Changxing was careful to appear comparatively more ordinary. One reason was to discourage Gao He from constantly coming to him to talk about the talisman path, and another was that he couldn't show off too much since he was outwardly just a middle-grade talisman master. In the course of their chat, Lu Changxing also inquired about the business model and daily operations of Gao He's spiritual talisman shop, to see if there was anything he could learn for himself. Gao He didn't conceal anything and shared the truth. The spiritual talisman shop he presided over was quite similar in business model to the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop, only lacking in supply, quality control, and variety of talismans compared to the Lu family's shop. Lu Changxing nodded slightly, gaining a basic understanding. In fact, whether it's a spirit talisman shop, an elixir medicines shop, a magic artifact shop, or a formation shop, etc., as long as you have the strength, your business won't do poorly. It can certainly thrive. For the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop, in addition to the renown of Qing Zhu and the Lu family, the core competitive power lies in the 4th Elder's 3 supreme talismans and 30 superior grade talismans. As long as I keep up the prize draws, maybe I can become a full-time craftsman. By then, I can train my children in this direction or cultivate more craftsmen, ensuring not only a stable income for the family but also sparing my children from having to fight to the death outside to earn resources. Chapter 100. I, Lu Changxing, a full-time artisan. After all, what I seek is stability, and having everything stable outweighs everything else. Lu Changxing thought again about his future path. 3 days later, a servant from White Jade Tower came over, indicating that the maids Lu Changxing had purchased had been delivered. Upon hearing this, Lu Changxing and the servant went to White Jade Tower. He was greeted by the same charming and seductive Feng Jianyang as always. Every time he saw Feng Jianyang, Lu Changxing couldn't help but sigh in admiration. What a stunning beauty! Master Lu, are you satisfied? Feng Jianyang led the 7 maids over and asked Lu Changxing. Lu Changxing didn't continue using the name Han Li. He revealed his real name. After all, he just impulsively borrowed a false name at the time. And he knew that the manager of White Jade Tower obviously knew his true identity. There was no point in hiding it anymore. Otherwise, it felt weird every time he was addressed as Master Han, and he would have to explain it to the maids he bought afterwards. No problem. Lu Changsheng looked at the 7 utterly charming and distinct maids before him and nodded. These 7 maids were not only beautiful and well-formed. Some of them were skilled in martial arts and had practiced charming lady elemental cultivation. Otherwise, for mere ordinary maids, he wouldn't have spent 116 spirit stones to buy 9 maids. At White Jade Tower, you truly get what you pay for. After handing over the remaining spirit stones, Lu Changsheng took the spiritual contracts of the 7 women, left White Jade Tower with them, and went back to his residence. Walking down the street with the 7 enticing maids following him made Lu Changsheng turn many heads. Who is that young master? To be out and about with 7 charming lasses. Don't know him. He must be a young master from some family. Seems to be the new boss of the Qingzhou Lu family spirit talisman shop? That's the life I dream of. They're just ordinary mortal women. I could have as many of such women as I want. Look at their appearance, figure, and demeanor. They're obviously not average worldly women. I just saw him come out of White Jade Tower, must have bought them there. To be rich, how nice. Indulging in pleasure and women, how can one cultivate in such a state? Exactly, this is nothing but decadent behavior. Passers-by looked at Lu Changsheng with envy and jealousy, disdain, or measured up Lu Changsheng with different expressions. Many women also gave Lu Changsheng sidelong glances, and upon seeing his handsome face, tall and straight stature, and his composed and gentle demeanor, their eyes lit up with interest. Some female cultivators even mustered the courage to approach Lu Changsheng and struck up a conversation, asking whether he was married or if he had any intentions of taking a wife. Faced with such forward propositions, although Lu Changsheng was somewhat tempted, he declined them all. He stated he was already married and had no intentions of taking another wife at this time, though he might consider concubines and maids. His caution wasn't just personal prudence towards marriage. He also had considerations towards the Lu family. In his view, taking a few concubines and buying some maids to serve him was one thing, but constantly taking new wives would be disrespectful towards Lu Miaoyun and the Lu family. After all, it had been less than a year since he married Lu Miaoyun. Shortly thereafter, Lu Changsheng quickly returned home with the 7 women. Looks like in the future when buying maids from White Jade Tower, he'll either bring them back in batches or have White Jade Tower deliver them directly to my home. Otherwise, this kind of situation is a bit too conspicuous. Not only does it feel like being watched like a monkey, but it could even lead to being targeted as a fat sheep. Back home, Lu Changsheng reflected inwardly. Regarding the envious glances and propositions from the passers-by on the road, he didn't feel any bit of swagger. Instead, he felt uneasy, worried about becoming a target. Little Qing, Xiao Yuyao, and Guan Xian, seeing their young master bringing back 7 delightful maids all at once, didn't know what to say for a moment. But remembering Lu Changsheng's abundant energy at night, they soon came to terms with it. Knowing that before long, all 7 would likely be pregnant. From now on you'll be called Yi Lian, you'll be called Hong Mian, you'll be called Zi Mei, you'll be called Song Lan. And at this moment, Lu Changsheng began naming his newly arrived 7 maids. The previous 2 maids he had named Hai Tang and Bai He, so he thought it would be good to unify the names. Yes, master. These maids were all very sensible. That night, Lu Changsheng also began to understand and experience the exceptional treasures that Lu Miaoqing once mentioned. Chapter 101. Dare 2 Mere Energy Refinement Late-Stage Cultivators to Ambush Me? _1. Sister Miaoga, Miaoyun might give birth in a few days, so I plan to leave for Qingzhou Mountain today. That day, Lu Changsheng went to the spiritual talisman shop and said to Lu Miaoga. He had already discussed this matter with Lu Miaoga before, planning to go back these 2 months in advance, to try to be there when Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenshen's child is born. All right, be careful on your way. I'll keep an eye on the shop here. Hearing this, Lu Miaoga nodded slightly and spoke softly. After saying farewell to Lu Miaoga, Lu Changsheng left Nine Dragons Marketplace alone, mounted the Iron Feather Eagle, and embarked on his journey to Qingzhou Mountain. Just as Lu Changsheng was exiting the gates of Nine Dragons Marketplace, at a restaurant nearby, a lean middle-aged man revealed a trace of unusual brightness in his eyes and took out a transmission talisman from his person. High above the clouds, an Iron Feather Eagle soared. Could it be that something unexpected will happen on my way home alone? Sitting cross-legged on the Iron Feather Eagle, Lu Changsheng couldn't help but worry. It was all right when he was with Lu Miaoge. It was only his first trip to Nine Dragons Market that he worried about potential mishaps. But after 2 round trips, he felt much better. Suddenly traveling alone now made him feel a bit uneasy again. Sigh, I really am a person who fears death and lacks a sense of security. Even with 34 superior grade talismans, 1 supreme talisman, and a talisman treasure on me, I still feel insecure. Lu Changsheng shook his head slightly, with a clear understanding of himself. After the Iron Feather Eagle flew for half a day, the unease in Lu Changsheng's heart calmed down a lot. He thought, how could there be so many dangers? However, just at that moment, Screech, the Iron Feather Eagle, soaring through the clouds, seemed to be stimulated by something, letting out a sharp and noisy cry. It made Lu Changsheng, who was sitting quietly on its back, feel his heart leap. Before he could understand what was happening, the Iron Feather Eagle spread its wings and dove towards a mountain peak below. What's going on? Lu Changsheng quickly grabbed the Iron Feather Eagle's feathers to avoid being thrown off and took out the Beast Control token. Through the Beast Control token, he could sense an anxious and restless emotion coming from the Iron Feather Eagle. As if something on the mountain peak ahead was luring it. Could it be that there's some rare treasure or spirit fruit maturing on that mountain peak? Lu Changsheng's first thought was that. However, he didn't entertain such thoughts. Because it is recorded in the books that when most rare treasures and exotic fruits mature, powerful demon beasts will be guarding them. It wasn't something he, a mere 4th-level Qi refinement weakling, could contemplate. Lu Changsheng didn't think any further. He immediately used the Beast Control token to soothe the Iron Feather Eagle and commanded it to continue flying on the path. The Iron Feather Eagle, which was diving towards the mountain peak, hesitated slightly at his command. But the next moment, it let out an even noisier cry from its beak and furiously dove towards the mountain peak ahead. This is definitely not the maturation of some rare treasure. The Iron Feather Eagle, having been tamed, would normally never disobey an order and go out of control under normal circumstances. Lu Changsheng's face darkened, holding tightly to the Iron Feather Eagle, realizing something was not quite right. But facing this situation, he didn't know how to handle the emergency. As the Iron Feather Eagle got closer and closer to the mountain peak, suddenly, swoosh, swoosh, 2 sounds of slicing through the air rang out. Lu Changsheng immediately saw 2 sword lights shooting towards him like rainbows. The cold gleam of sword qi breathed in and out in the air, emitting a buzzing sound that intimidated the soul. Not good. In that moment, even if Lu Changsheng was slow to react, he realized that he was being ambushed. He understood why the Iron Feather Eagle had suddenly gone out of control. Without waiting to think more, 2 flying swords were already coming at him, one before the other. Clang! Clang! When the 2 flying swords neared his body, he saw a green qi barrier appearing around him, accompanied by the rustling sound of his magical robe fluttering, and a pale light from the spirit pendant on his chest, forming a water blue shield, stopping the 2 flying swords outside. These were the passive body-protecting techniques of his robe's magic artifact and the spirit pendant. However, under the onslaught of the flying swords, both protective techniques dimmed considerably. Lu Changsheng's face darkened. Without time to be scared or hesitate, he immediately took out a talisman from his storage bag. He used a flying ascension talisman and a golden light barrier talisman on himself, causing the wind to rise under his feet and a sense of lightness to envelop him, allowing for brief flight, and a thick layer of golden bell enveloped him. Clang! Clang! The 2 sharp rainbow-like flying swords struck at Lu Changsheng again, colliding with the bell and producing 2 sonorous metallic sounds. Even with the protection of the golden bell shield talisman, Lu Changsheng felt a great force shock his body. But the shock didn't harm him. It merely made him somewhat unsteady on the back of the iron feather eagle. Escape! Without hesitation, Lu Changxing, aided by the flying ascension talisman, leaped into the air from the back of the iron feather eagle and fled in the opposite direction. Now that he knew someone was setting him up, he also roughly guessed why the iron feather eagle lost control and was frantically diving towards the mountain peak. It was certainly not because of some exotic fruit maturing. It was a demon-attracting fragrance, a kind of incense made specifically for demon beasts. It was capable of attracting demon beasts, making those with little spiritual intelligence be instinctively drawn by it, filled with wildness. Many hunters and cultivators would use demon-attracting fragrance to lure and hunt demon beasts. The way the iron feather eagle was behaving, it was most likely affected by the demon-attracting fragrance. Chapter 102. Two mere energy refinement late-stage cultivators dare to ambush me? So he had no choice but to abandon it. Trying to run, where do you think you're going? I've been squatting on you for so long, did you really think you could escape? Seeing Lu Changxing trying to flee with the help of a flying ascension talisman, two figures, one fat and one skinny, immediately shot up into the sky from the mountain peak where the iron feather eagle was diving. They were stepping on a round flying artifact, rapidly pursuing Lu Changxing. Controlling a flying artifact. Both these men are at the energy refinement late stage. When Lu Changxing saw the two figures that appeared, his heart sank once again. He knew that with the speed granted by the flying ascension talisman, he would never be able to outrun these two men. He decided to land on the spot and try to escape using an escape talisman. This kid was able to pull out 3 superior grade talismans. He must have other life-saving talismans on him. We absolutely cannot let him get away. However, these two were not simple characters. Both their eyesight and techniques were exceedingly shrewd. While chasing Lu Changxing with the flying artifact, they controlled 2 flying swords to continue attacking him, blocking his escape route. They also cast various spells, treating him like a live target, causing the golden light around Lu Changxing to rapidly dim. This won't work. In this situation, it's difficult to even land. Lu Changxing knew that he was a live target. To rely on talismans to hold on until he landed and then try to escape using another talisman was very unlikely. Moreover, he didn't know whether the other two had other means of pursuit. The best plan was to retaliate and kill the 2 men. So what if it's the energy refinement late stage? They're just 2 energy refinement late-stage cultivators. With the talismans and talisman treasures I have on me, should I be afraid of those at the energy refinement late stage? With a fierce look in his eyes, Lu Changxing promptly applied another golden bell shield talisman to himself, ready to counterattack. Another golden bell shield talisman? This kid is just a middle-grade talisman master. How can he have so many superior-grade talismans? Indeed a fat sheep. All that waiting hasn't been in vain. The fat and skinny duo, seeing this, had their eyes gleaming sharply, filled with greed and viciousness. Just as they intensified their offensive, Lu Changxing also turned around and threw out a batch of talismans. All of them were middle and lower grade talismans, about 20 in total. This was the most Lu Changxing could stimulate at once with his mental spirit. Any more than that, and he wouldn't be able to control them properly. Under the control of Lu Changxing's mental spirit and spiritual power, these talismans transformed into fireballs, rolling boulders, ice spikes, wind blades, sharp arrows, cold winds. With a ferocious momentum, they all hauled towards the fat and tall duo. So many talismans? The dark fat man, upon seeing this, was shocked and hurriedly brought out an earthy yellow shield magic artifact to block this overwhelming offensive. Lu Changxing's talismans hit the shield, only creating thuds. While resisting the attack, the dark fat man called out to the skinny white man, "Stop dilly-dallying, get rid of this kid quickly. Otherwise, if we let him use up all his talismans, we'll be at a huge loss." In their eyes, everything on Lu Changxing was as good as in their pockets. Every talisman used was like spending their money. The skinny white man didn't reply, but he harbored the same thoughts, his eyes flashing dangerously. He slapped his storage bag, and with a spell gesture, summoned a cold, gleaming curved saber magic artifact. Like a crescent moon, the curved saber flew towards Lu Changxing with a swiftness that cut through the air. However, at this moment, Lu Changxing also applied another golden light barrier talisman on himself, and simultaneously cast 3 more talismans. The previous assortment of middle and lower grade talismans was just the appetizer. It was merely to distract them for a moment. Now was the main event. Hum! A sound like thunder rumbled through the void, causing the air to tremble slightly. Superior grade talisman, soul-shaking talisman. It was designed to shock the mental spirit of others, inducing panic, fear, and unease. The soul-shaking talisman used by Lu Changxing caught the fat and skinny duo somewhat off guard. In that moment, their minds went blank, overwhelmed by fear, and they were momentarily dazed. However, right in that instant, boom, boom, 2 talismans flew out, enshrouded in purple lightning, turning into 2 violent thunderstrikes aimed at the 2 men. Superior grade talisman, thunder summoning talisman. It could summon a thunderstrike comparable to a 9th level energy refinement cultivator's strike. Even normally, the 2 men would struggle to cope with such a thunder-summoning talisman. Especially now, caught off guard by the soul-shaking talisman, their mental spirits compromised. Boom, boom. The shield magic artifact that the dark fat man had summoned, already barely holding up under the relentless barrage of talismans, could hardly block at all. When the thunderstrike hit, the earthy yellow shield flew straight out of his hands, and while he was still not back to his senses, was overwhelmed by the talisman offensive. The skinny white man, with a somewhat stronger will and mental spirit, quickly regained his composure. His eyes flashed with lightning, and he frantically generated a body-protecting chi barrier around himself. But at that moment, it was already too late. Ah! No! The body-protecting chi barrier shattered like flimsy paper under the ferocious attack of the thunder-summoning talisman. Soon after, the man let out a roar of unwillingness and disbelief. Suddenly, 2 charred bodies fell from the sky. Both bodies turned to char, crumbling into ash in midair. The curved saber magic artifact that was still attacking Lu Changxing's golden light barrier lost spiritual power support and fell straight down from the sky. They're dead just like that? Holding the Thunder Talisman and Golden Light Barrier Talisman treasure, Lu Changxing, still ready to continue, saw that the 2 men were turned to char under the attack of the Thunder Summoning Talisman and fell from the sky. He was momentarily stunned. It was just getting started, and the 2 men were already gone. But in an instant he understood clearly that the battles between cultivators often ended in the blink of an eye. Chapter 103. 2 mere energy refinement late-stage cultivators dare to ambush me? A single misstep, a mere carelessness, could easily result in death and the end of one's path in cultivation. Although both of them were formidable, they were only cultivators at the energy refinement late stage, let alone facing a first-grade, high-quality thunder-summoning talisman. Without enough preparation to defend oneself, a single middle-grade talisman could potentially cost one their life directly. At this time, Lu Changxing finally let out a slight sigh of relief. He let the heart that had been stuck in his throat settle down. That was close. Without my magical robe and the cold jade pendant, I wouldn't have even had a chance to use a talisman when that flying sword suddenly came at me. Lu Changxing swallowed with his dry throat, filled with lingering fear in his heart. He felt that his awareness of danger was still severely lacking. At the first sign of the Iron Feather Eagle losing control, he should have sensed the danger, become alert, and been ready to defend himself. Instead of waiting like just now, realizing the problem was dangerous only after the flying sword had come out and was about to strike. My experience in this area is seriously lacking. Lu Changxing let out another breath, licked his lips, and silently thought. He also knew that such awareness couldn't be improved overnight. It needed to be accumulated and cultivated. He planned to prepare more body-protecting magic artifacts for himself after returning to Nine Dragons Market, ensuring he was fully armed. Otherwise, if he encountered this situation again or met robber cultivators more formidable than those 2, The protective techniques of the magical robe and cold jade pendant would be insufficient. Based on the conversation between those two just now, it seems like they were specifically waiting for me here. I've always been kind to others, never offended anyone, and have no enemies. Why would anyone be lying in wait for me? The only possibility is that I was targeted in Nine Dragons Market? Lu Changxing thought about his expenditures in the Nine Dragons Market over the past couple of months. If someone paid attention, they could see that he was quite wealthy, a juicy target. There's a saying that one shouldn't flaunt their wealth. Once you show your wealth, you're likely to be targeted. While Nine Dragons Market may be safe, it does not mean that the people within are all good. As soon as you leave Nine Dragons Market, any cultivator inside could potentially become a robber cultivator. Moreover, as a fourth-level energy refinement cultivator, in the eyes of most cultivators, I am nothing but a piece of fat meat, a child holding gold. Lu Changxing also understood this point and didn't dwell on it, deciding to be more cautious going forward. He looked around and saw no trace of other people. Immediately, he used a flying ascension talisman to descend towards the ground to collect his spoils of war. Just now, both men turned to charred bodies and ash under the onslaught of talismans, leaving only their robes and boots wrapped around the remains. These must be magic artifacts, right? Lu Changxing looked at the clothes and boots, his eyes lighting up. If these were ordinary clothes, they would not have survived the talisman attack just now. He stepped forward and performed a cleansing technique, cleaning away the remnants and ashes inside the robe and shoes, then picked up the robe to examine it. Under the attack of the talismans just now, the robes had suffered slight damages and were probably only of lower grade. Inside both robes, he found a storage bag. This brought a hint of joy to Lu Changxing's face. After all, in such a perilous fight of life and death, the spoils were the only thing worth looking forward to. He did not check the contents of the two storage bags right away, choosing to pocket them first. He then searched around and found both men's flying artifacts, flying swords, as well as shield artifacts, and curved saber artifacts. After collecting everything, Lu Changxing felt that this haul should be quite substantial. He took out the beast control token to sense the condition of the Iron Feather Eagle. If the Iron Feather Eagle were gone, getting back to Qingzhou Mountain would be quite troublesome for him. Even if he got back to the Nine Dragons Market, he would only be able to do so by running. Through the beast control token, he could sense a faint connection with the Iron Feather Eagle. It should still be on the peak. As I suspected, the two robber cultivators must have used demon beast lure to send the Iron Feather Eagle out of control, rushing to the mountaintop, he thought. An Iron Feather Eagle is worth hundreds of spirit stones. As robber cultivators out for wealth, they naturally wouldn't harm the Iron Feather Eagle, he reasoned. Otherwise, when I was riding on the Iron Feather Eagle, they would have attacked it directly instead of me, he deduced. Lu Changxing thought for a moment and decided to go to the peak to retrieve the Iron Feather Eagle. Seeing that the effects of the Flying Ascension Talisman on him were wearing off, Lu Changxing gritted his teeth, took out another talisman, and used it on himself. Then, with caution in his heart, he hastened toward the mountaintop. Though only two people had come to assassinate him just now, they likely didn't have accomplices. But given what had just happened, it was best to be extra cautious. Moreover, demon beasts might also be present between these forested mountains. When Lu Changxing arrived at the peak with great caution, he immediately saw a light brown incense stick as big as an adult's arm, burning on a giant boulder on the mountaintop. Thick white wisps of smoke were slowly floating upward, spreading into the air. Meanwhile, the Iron Feather Eagle was next to the incense, squawking violently and uneasily. It really is demon beast lure, he confirmed. It seems these two went to great lengths to ambush me, preparing well in advance and putting in a lot of effort, he surmised. Wait a minute, I left the Nine Dragons Market ahead of schedule to go home. How could they calculate my movements so accurately if they were lying in wait out here? He wondered. Surely, they can't be lighting a demon beast lure every day in advance, can they? He questioned. And looking at this demon beast lure, it appears to have only been burning for about 2 or 3 hours, he observed. Lu Changxing's eyes narrowed slightly as he watched the burning demon beast lure in front of him. He sensed that something was amiss. The attackers must have another accomplice. This accomplice was likely in the Nine Dragons Market, watching him in secret. The moment he left the Nine Dragons Market, they would signal here. Otherwise, how could they be so precise? After all, the Iron Feather Eagle was already quite fast. To prepare even faster, only a transmission talisman would do. It seems I'll need to be even more careful when I return to the Nine Dragons Market, he reflected inwardly. He didn't approach the violently uneasy Iron Feather Eagle. He took out a water bullet talisman, activated it to form a water bullet, and shot it at the demon beast lure to extinguish it. With the scent extinguished, the Iron Feather Eagle calmed down quite a bit. Lu Changxing used the beast control token to attempt to command the Iron Feather Eagle and assess its condition. But he found that the Iron Feather Eagle was still in a disturbed animalistic state, not very obedient to commands. It will probably take at least a day for the effects of the demon beast lure on the Iron Feather Eagle to wear off, he estimated. Lu Changxing sighed, feeling somewhat helpless. He knew it would take quite some time for the incense that provoked the demon beast's instincts to fade completely. Right away, he took out a spirit-nourishing pill and threw it to the Iron Feather Eagle to help stabilize its mood by eating. Then he used the beast control token to store the Iron Feather Eagle back into the spiritual pet bag, planning to find a cave to hide in for the time being. Otherwise, if he waited here for the Iron Feather Eagle to recover, the accomplices of the two robber cultivators from earlier might arrive any moment. Chapter 104. Fairy, please conduct yourself with dignity. _1 Lu Changxing, using a flying ascension talisman, flew at full force and arrived at a cliff cave several miles away. He used a purification talisman to check himself all over, to see if there were any tricks left behind. After confirming there were no problems, he began to clean up the loot in the 2 storage bags. In total, there were 362 spirit stones, 3 lower-grade magic artifacts and 1 middle-grade magic artifact, a number of elixir medicines, a number of spiritual medicines, a number of talismans, a bunch of miscellaneous items. Lu Changxing estimated that these items were worth 600 to 700 spirit stones. Adding the vestment robe, magic boots, flying sword, shield, curved saber, and flying artifact he had just acquired, it casually amounted to over 1,000 spirit stones. It could be said to be a huge sum of money. A hint of joy appeared on his face. This haul was much more significant than what he had collected before at Bullhead Mountain. One could only say that there were different levels of robber cultivators. Being a robber cultivator at a place like Nine Dragons Market was certainly more prosperous than in a mundane place like Bullhead Mountain. Of course, the risk was also much higher. Lu Changxing took out a high-grade purification talisman and purified all the items to check if there were any problems. Indeed, under the effect of the purification talisman, 3 items showed signs of branding marks. After destroying these items along with some other suspicious ones that he did not recognize, Lu Changxing continued to flee to another place. Thinking that fleeing on his own could leave traces and scents, and also consume too much spiritual power and physical strength, Lu Changxing immediately took out an escape talisman and used it. Suddenly, spiritual light surged around him, enveloping his entire being as he dove into the ground, traveling swiftly like a mole before bursting forth. In less than the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, Lu Changxing appeared several miles away. Phew! As soon as Lu Changxing emerged from the ground, he breathed in the air. He immediately smelled a stench. Gurgle! He turned his head and saw, not far off, a black wild boar over 2 to 3 meters tall and 5 to 6 meters long, with hair like pine needles, staring at him. Its snout was puffing white smoke, and its tusks were sharp and fierce. A demon beast! With one look at the large wild boar, Lu Changxing's heart skipped a beat, knowing that it was not an animal, but a demon beast. Gurgle! Before he could take another look, the large boar let out a low roar, its tusks emitting a faint black light, and charged straight at him. Seeing this, Lu Changxing quickly took out a mid to lower grade talisman to use. The talisman burst into light, transforming into a barrier of water and light that protected him. Then vines and earthen prisons appeared, trapping the boar, followed by a barrage of fireballs, wind blades, and arrows bombarding the beast. Boom, boom, boom. Whir, whir, whir. Under the onslaught of 10 to 20 talismans, the boar let out a mournful howl before it could get close to Lu Changxing. Its body scorched black, blood gushing out, it eventually collapsed with a cry of agony. This should only be a first-grade beginner demon beast. Perhaps I could have killed it with my flying sword with a bit of effort. This feels rather wasteful. Lu Changxing looked at the fallen boar and shook his head slightly. Just one of his talismans cost tens to almost 100 spirit stones. And a beast like this, if sold, probably would fetch around 100 spirit stones only. Moreover, with its body so severely damaged by his talisman assault, the price would definitely be a lot lower. Forget it, such a small thing isn't worth skimping on. After all, I only have one life. I'd rather waste a bit than make a single mistake. Lu Changxing consoled himself with a word, not feeling too heartbroken. He took out his flying sword, roughly butchered the large wild boar, and stuffed it into his storage bag. Storing demon beast meat in the storage bag also had a shelf life. Probably after 7 or 8 days, the quality of the meat would be affected. However, upon returning to Qingzhou Mountain, besides consuming it himself, he could also feed it to the 9 Netherhound. Over the past 2 years, he had mostly fed the 9 Netherhound ordinary raw meat, only occasionally giving it demon beast flesh to eat. It couldn't be helped, as feeding it demon beast meat every day was too expensive to maintain. If he weren't worried about accidents, he would have liked to find a mountain range to let the 9 Netherhound roam free. Waiting for the 9 Netherhound to grow through constant battles and struggles to become a demon king of its own territory, then come back to carry him soaring. After cleaning up the surroundings, Lu Changxing began looking for a place to settle down for the night. He planned to rest for a day and then leave when the Iron Feather Eagle had recovered. During this process, to avoid encountering other demon beasts, Lu Changxing was very careful and cautious. He eventually came across a tiger demon beast in a cave. Without hesitation, Lu Changxing used a talisman to instantly kill the first-grade beginner tiger demon and entered the cave. He planned to spend the night here. It's just for one night, nothing else should happen, right? Lu Changxing lay on the tiger skin rug, feeling somewhat weary. While the use of talismans did not drain him, using so many had taken quite a toll on his mental spirit. After taking a couple of sips of white jade 100 flowers wine, Lu Changxing took out a spirit stone and began to meditate and cultivate. The night gradually fell. In the wilderness between the forests, the sounds of wild animals roaring and shrieking filled the night, making it very unsettling. At this time, dozens of miles away, atop a mountain peak, screech. A giant eagle with pitch-black feathers and wings spanning several zhang landed. On the back of the black eagle stood a stout middle-aged man. The man, dressed in a black robe, seemed to blend in with the night. He hopped down from the back of the eagle, his eyes gleaming faintly in the night, and began to inspect the surroundings. After checking the surroundings, Zhou Guanglong muttered to himself, "It looks like I've been outdone. Just a Qi refinement 4th level young master, and he possesses such strength and means?" Then, with a light step, his agile figure leaped into the air and landed back on the eagle's back. Chapter 105. Fairy, please conduct yourself with dignity. The black-winged eagle immediately soared into the night sky. It hadn't flown far when suddenly, a violent surge of light erupted in the distance. This light was so brilliant that it was like a great sun ascending in the night sky, too dazzling to look at directly. What is this? Zhou Guanglong on the back of the black-winged eagle looked toward the source of the light. But with his peak Qi refinement cultivation level, he couldn't see it clearly. As the light dimmed slightly, a clash of colorful halos and black-red tornadoes could be seen colliding together, erupting with thunderous booms. The two streams of light moved across the sky, constantly colliding and sweeping across, unleashing a heavenly turbulence. The shock waves that landed on the mountains below caused them to tremble violently and crumble incessantly. The fierce birds and beasts in the forest were so frightened that they trembled and fled in all directions. This is a battle between nascent soul immortals. Zhou Guanglong finally made out that within the colorful halos and the black-red tornadoes, there were faintly visible figures, a woman dressed in colorful garments and an old man in red robes. They exchanged blows, lighting up the night sky and making the clouds roll and unfold. "Run, we must quickly escape from here." Seeing that the two nascent soul immortals were moving in his direction, he immediately urged his black-winged eagle to leave quickly. However, at this moment, the large black eagle beneath him, under the astonishing aura in the distance, had already begun to let out cries of fear. "Damn it, I've raised you for so long, and at the critical moment, you're totally unreliable," Zhou Guanglong cursed, seeing his pet mount tremble. But he knew that although his black-winged eagle had high-rank bloodline, it was after all only at late first grade. In the face of such terrifying auras from nascent soul immortals, it would instinctively feel fear and terror. It wasn't just pets, he himself was also panicking. After all, this was a battle between nascent soul immortals. If even a slight shockwave hit him, he would be either dead or crippled. Right then, he had the black-winged eagle land straight away, planning to find a place to hide. Otherwise, being in the air was just too conspicuous. He might be noticed by one of the battling nascent soul immortals who found him bothersome and killed him with a flick of their hand. In the night sky, the woman in colorful garments wielded a long sword, and with every swing, rocks and debris were sent flying, creating countless waves. "Yunwanshang, you can't escape. You've been touched by my red phoenix karma fire, so you'd better surrender willingly." However, the old man in red robes was shrouded in black-red mist that gradually turned pink, making the sword light pass through him without effect, piercing right through him. "Ha ha ha." Around the old man, the pink mist churned, stirring up strong winds and agitating the spiritual energy around him. Amidst the mist, the sound of men's and women's soft moans constantly assailed the mental spirit, stirring up inner desires. So this is a nascent soul immortal, truly terrifying. Zhou Guanglong had just landed when a shockwave hit close by. The terrifying force made his blood roil, and where the shockwave hit the ground, a crater several zhang wide appeared. He was not only at the peak of qi refinement but also practiced body refinement. Yet even just a touch of a shockwave made him sense danger. He dashed towards another area, while keeping an eye on the shockwaves above to avoid getting hit. If he died like this, it would be unjust and frustrating. After running for a while, he saw the woman with the long sword in the night sky summon an ancient mirror above her head. This ancient mirror flowed with golden light, which shone like a great sun in the night sky, and shot a fierce light at the old man in red robes. Then with one slash of her sword, a bright golden divine thunder appeared in the sky. "Ah, Yunwanshang, you've actually mastered the divine sword thunder commandment." Confronted by the golden divine thunder, the old man in red robes let out a pitiful, shrieking howl, with blood spurting from his mouth. "Yunwanshang, divine sword thunder commandment, could this colorful-robed woman be none other than Kaiyun True Immortal from Qingyun sect? Who is this old man in red robes daring to strike a Qingyun sect's Kaiyun True Immortal within the territory of Jiang country?" Zhou Guanglong, hiding in the woods, felt terrified upon hearing the scream in the air. But in the next moment he saw the old man in red robes bring out a small cauldron, from which red flames billowed, setting the heavens ablaze and causing a rain of fire to fall from the sky. Zhou Guanglong was petrified, and without hesitation he pulled out a hammer-shaped magical artifact to smash out a cave in the nearby mountain wall, where he quickly hid himself. He also took out an umbrella-shaped magical artifact to block the entrance to the cave to avoid being hit by the rain of fire. Truly, when immortals fight, mortals suffer. I, Zhou Guanglong, am at least a figure of some status and have seen all sorts of scenes. But in front of nascent soul immortals, I am nothing but an ant. Zhou Guanglong gasped for breath in the cave. Soon, there was a shaking of the ground and tremors of the mountain, and after a while, things seemed to calm down outside. Just as he was considering whether to go out, he heard voices talking outside. "Yunwanshang, you're being burnt by the red phoenix karma fire. If you don't unite with me, your death is certain." If you agree to unite with me, using your Tongyu Phoenix marrow body to heal me and aid my cultivation, Huyen Shao, am willing to make the heart demon great oath and henceforth be loyal to you. An old and weak voice rang out. Red Phoenix old demon Huyen Shao? Zhou Guanglong immediately recognized the identity of the old man in red robes upon hearing the conversation outside. He was also a nascent soul immortal of Jiang country. A loose cultivator by origin, but due to his domineering behavior and disregard for all prohibitions, he was also called Red Phoenix Old Demon. He never would have thought that this Red Phoenix Old Demon would dare to lay hands on a Qingyun sect nascent soul immortal, and even seek to practice cultivation in union with her. Cough, cough, you can dream on. A crisp and icy voice responded. If you refuse, the karma fire will surge, and if it erupts, both of us will die here today. Chapter 106. Fairy, please conduct yourself with dignity. In the Red Phoenix True Scripture I Cultivate, there is a dual cultivation secret technique. As long as you're willing to become my Tao companion, in the future we both may have hope for nascent soul. The voice of Red Lawn Old Demon was weak as he continued to speak. I'd rather die than, cough cough. Let you, the cool voice of Cloud Gown Fairy rose, but it became more hurried, with panting breaths. Your body is already burning with Red Phoenix karma fire. I wonder how much longer you can suppress it, cough cough cough. The voice of Red Lawn Old Demon was weak and sinister. You, huff, won't you come out? At that moment, Cloud Gown Fairy's voice grew louder and more urgent, also carrying a captivating charm. Zhou Guanglong in the cave knew that the fairy of colorful clouds was addressing himself. Although he possessed the peak qi refinement cultivation level, how could he possibly conceal it from this nascent soul immortal? Another person? Cough cough. The voice of Red Lawn Old Demon grew colder. Zhou Guanglong walked out from the cave and saw immediately in front of him a woman lying on the ground, clad in a colorful, radiant flowing gown made of gauze. The woman appeared to be in her mid-20s, her hair lightly coiled up and fixed with a glaze hairpin, a breathtakingly beautiful face at this moment flushed like peach blossoms, her slightly dazed beautiful eyes, and slightly parted lips, gently panting. Although he only heard of her great reputation and had never seen her in person, he knew at this moment that this supremely elegant woman was none other than the fairy of colorful clouds, Yun Wanshang, from Qingyun sect. Not too far away on the ground lay a rugged-faced old man in red robes. Presumably, he was Red Lawn Old Demon. The old demon looked unspeakably miserable. Not only was he vomiting blood, but there was also a huge sword wound cavity in his chest, with golden sword energy rampaging within it, making his whole Bodis aura chaotic and struggling desperately. I am an elder of Qingyun sect, Yun Wanshang, and this person is Red Lawn Old Demon. As long as you help me eliminate him, my Qingyun sect will surely thank you heavily. Huff, 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 Yun Wanshang said to Zhou Guanglong, but now her face was flushed like peach blossoms, and even speaking seemed very hard for her. Kid, don't listen to her. What benefits can her Qingyun sect offer you? I suppose you're just one step from foundation establishment, right? You only need to bring her to me to help me heal, and afterwards, I will take you as my disciple, assist you in foundation establishment, and even core formation is not impossible. Seeing the situation, Red Lawn Old Demon quickly spoke. Zhou Guanglong paused upon hearing the words of the two, glanced at Yun Wanshang, and then at Red Lawn Old Demon. Kid, rest assured, I am willing to make a heart demon great oath. As long as you are willing to lend me a hand, even if I can't guarantee true elixir for you afterward, I will ensure you form a false core. Red Lawn Old Demon pressed his advantage. Your words are witnessed here. Hearing this, Zhou Guanglong was visibly shaken and spoke. He took the path of a robber cultivator to strive for foundation establishment and become a foundation establishment great cultivator. As for core formation, that was something he didn't even dare to dream of. At this moment, moved by Red Lawn Old Demon's promise of a false core, he was tremendously tempted. After all, Qingyun sect was not even within his considerations. If his actions were known by Qingyun sect, even if the sect forgave him, he would not receive any substantial benefits. Huff, 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 how can you believe the words of this demon head? Huff, huff, huff. Yun Wansheng, seeing Zhou Guanglong seemingly to side with Red Luan old demon, showed a trace of panic in her dazed beautiful eyes, gasping as she spoke. I, Huyan Xiao, have never sworn an oath in my life. If you don't believe me, cough, 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 I can swear now. I, Huyan Xiao, swear that today. Red Luan old demon, unable to move as he lay on the ground, forcibly lifted his palm and began to swear. For cultivators, a heart demon oath, the higher the cultivation level, the more binding it is. Seeing him take the oath, Zhou Guanglong immediately knelt before the old man and said, Disciple Zhou Guanglong pays respect to master. Cough, cough, cough. Very good, good disciple. Quickly bring your master's wife over to me. She is currently entangled by my red phoenix karma fire, her desires rising like a tide. As soon as I ignite it with my mana, it will erupt instantly. Red Phoenix demon immediately bared his teeth and spoke. Yes, master. Zhou Guanglong nodded slightly and walked towards Yun Wansheng. Seeing Zhou Guanglong approaching, a flash of resolution appeared in Yun Wansheng's eyes. Her cultivation method and physique were special. If given time to recuperate, she could suppress the red phoenix karma fire. But unexpectedly, a cultivator nearby chose to assist the red phoenix demon. She could only sigh in resignation to fate and time. Immediately, she slapped her storage bag with mana meant to suppress the karma fire, and suddenly, a fist-sized purple bead appeared from the storage bag. Hoo-hoo-hoo! The bead burst into light, thunder and earth fire filling the air, and directly turned Zhou Guanglong and Red Phoenix Demon into ashes. At that moment, the only clarity left in Yun Wansheng's beautiful eyes vanished, her body quickly became hot, her skin like creamy white jade visibly turning pink. And just then, as if by instinct, she sensed something in the midst of the void and shot out like a divine rainbow. Meanwhile, not far away, inside a cave. Holy shit, it's finally quiet. The power and commotion just now, what level of fighting was that? It was terrifying, Lu Changxing said. Seeing that there was no noise outside and everything was completely quiet, he breathed a long sigh of relief and let the anxiety that had been caught in his throat dissipate. Anyone cultivating quietly at night would panic if suddenly there were rumbles, and two people began to fight, causing earthquakes and landslides. Sigh. I'll head back early tomorrow morning as soon as the Iron Feather Eagle recovers. I won't run back and forth anymore. It's better to bring Miaoyun and Jinjin directly to the Nine Dragons Market from now on, he pondered. Otherwise, constantly traveling back and forth, I might encounter danger. Lu Changxing thought to himself, feeling it's best not to leave the house if it isn't necessary. The outside world is just too dangerous. However, at that moment, a fragrant breeze suddenly wafted over. Before him appeared, seemingly out of nowhere, an exquisitely beautiful woman wearing colorful garments. Lu Changxing was taken aback by the sudden appearance of this breathtakingly beautiful woman. He hadn't even grasped how she had appeared. This woman was none other than Yun Wansheng. Her face was flushed, her alluring eyes as soft as autumn water, filled with lust as she looked directly at Lu Changxing and pounced on him. Lu Changxing was immediately pinned down by the woman and could not move. He struggled several times, but to no avail. He could clearly feel the heat of the woman's body before him. It felt like a raging fire was burning. He knew that her condition meant either she had been poisoned or was experiencing cultivation deviation. Fairy, please comport yourself. Lu Changxing called out a few times, but the woman, out of her senses, didn't respond to his calls. Instead, she pinned him underneath her, and her moist lips came closer to kiss him. Who could withstand such a situation? Looking at the heavenly beauty before him, feeling her mature and soft body pressed against him, the intoxicating fragrance of her breath, Lu Changxing let out a soft sigh. If this situation was inescapable, then there was no point in resisting. He might as well choose to enjoy it. Lu Changxing lay back sprawled and relaxed. Afterward, the cave resounded with intense activity that lasted for a moment before a magical robe was thrown at the entrance of the cave. After a while, several more pieces of clothing were tossed out, including the intimate garments of the woman. Chapter 107. You feel wronged, but I feel wronged too. _1 in the cave. Lu Changxing sat naked, hugging his knees, pitifully and helplessly crouching in the corner of the wall. He resembled a ravished fine lady or gentleman, looking aggrievedly at the stunning beauty in front of him. The beauty was draped in a multicolored gown that seemed made of rosy clouds, her eyes like autumn pools, her brows like distant mountains, her nose was high and proud, her lips red and moist as if dripping with color, her black hair slightly unkempt, loosely draped over her shoulders. Beneath the hem of her gown, a pair of snow-white delicate feet were bare, as if carved from jade and sculpted from snow, utter perfection, glimmering with a faint crystal sheen. The curve of her ankle was graceful, slender yet full, and the arch of her foot was curved like the moon, drawing an exquisitely beautiful arc. Her 5 toes were symmetrically neat, like white jade grapes, uncolored yet showing a rosy translucence, moist and tempting, inciting an urge in one to gently touch and play with them. In these 3 days, every part of this exquisite Bowtai's body, every inch of her skin, had been appreciated and touched by Lu Changxing. But at this moment, her voluptuous and tender, enticing jade body took on a different aura when clothed in this garment. It was entirely different from the demeanor, posture, and expressions Lu Changxing had seen in these 3 days. It was as if she had become a different person. Although her qi seemed somewhat disordered, she looked extraordinarily noble. Like the lofty 9 heavens mysterious lady, untouched by worldly dust. One glance at her would make one feel ashamed, invoking a sense of unworthiness and a fear to blaspheme. She appeared to be right before one's eyes, yet she felt incredibly distant, making it hard to discern her face, hard to reach out to. Like a celestial maiden in the clouds, ready to ride the wind away at any moment. Yun Wanshang also looked indifferently at Lu Changxing before her. Within the depths of her eyes, which flowed like the Milky Way, there was a great complexity. She had always been proud and focused on her cultivation. Since embarking on the path of cultivation, over the past 100 years, she had encountered countless young heroes and genius demons. Yet not one of them had ever stirred her heart. But today, she, Yun Wanshang, Kin true immortal of the Qingyun sect, a nascent soul immortal, had lost her chastity in such a wretched place, in this dilapidated cave. And the one to take it was a mere qi refinement stage junior cultivator. Such an energy refining cultivator, under normal circumstances, she might not even spare an additional glance. Yet, in this instance, he had directly taken her innocence and broken her Tongyu Phoenix marrow body. Even with her centuries-old temperament, Yun Wanshang couldn't remain calm at this moment. A surge of humiliation and killing intent arose within her heart. Especially seeing his pitiful and helpless, aggrieved expression, which greatly irritated her. She longed to slay the young man before her to vent the hatred in her heart. How could it be? Could it be that this matter has wronged you? You feel wronged, but I am the one who feels even more so. Not only did I lose my innocence, but the spirit-nurturing energy of the Tongyu Phoenix marrow body was also taken by you, aiding in your marrow cleansing and significantly advancing your cultivation level. And you still feel pitiful and aggrieved? Yun Wanshang grew more aggrieved the more she thought about it, wishing she could kill Lu Changxing to appease the resentment in her heart. But a part of her heart was somewhat reluctant. After all, he was the man who had taken her virginity. It left her with a strange feeling in her heart. Moreover, she also understood that this matter couldn't be entirely blamed on him. She even had to thank Lu Changxing for saving her life. When she used the Thunderfire Pearl to kill the man in the black robe and the Red Phoenix Fiend, she was determined to face death. She was prepared to die from the burning of the Red Phoenix Karma Fire. If not for the young man before her, who, through their 3 days of union, extinguished the Karma Fire, she might already be extinguished under the Red Phoenix Karma Fire. Moreover, after the fire began to recede, she also regained a trace of clarity in her consciousness. She knew that the process was largely under her control. The junior cultivator at the qi refinement stage couldn't resist during that time. He was at the mercy of her actions. consider what happened between us just a dream. You'd best keep this matter to yourself forever, not a word to another soul, or I'll have to kill you. Yun Wanshang said with trembling lashes, her face expressionless. I understand, Lu Changsheng replied, a sigh of relief in his heart. Although the woman before him was unimaginably beautiful and had been intimately involved with him for 3 whole days, he was well aware that in the cultivation world, there was no such thing as a fait accompli. To think that because he had taken her virginity, she would marry him was a fantasy. His pitiful and helpless demeanor was a ploy, dreading that she might want to kill him out of shame and indignation for losing her virginity to him, slapping him dead with a single blow. After all, Lu Changxing was acutely aware of the woman's formidable nature, her cultivation level deep and unfathomable. Otherwise, his cultivation level would not have soared during their 3 days of bliss. In her presence, he was no different from an ant. If she wished to kill him, he would have no power to resist. After speaking, as if to further reassure the woman, Lu Changsheng earnestly continued, I will treat this matter as if it never happened, and will never mention it to anyone. If it leaks out, feel free to kill me. Yun Wanshang, on hearing Lu Changxing agree without hesitation to act as if nothing had happened, not only felt no joy but a hint of displeasure. But with a faint chill in her voice, she said, as long as you know. With those words, the man and woman remained in silent deadlock, bringing quiet to the cave. Yun Wanshang felt somewhat awkward. Although she was a core formation stage true immortal, having grown up in the immortal sects dedicated to cultivation since she was young, she knew even less about matters of men and women, about emotions, than an ordinary young girl. Chapter 108. You feel wronged, but I feel wronged too. When such an incident occurred, Lu Changsheng's instincts forbade him from divulging it. But deep inside he was very agitated, unsure how to face it, unwilling to just let it go. Because during their intimate encounter, Lu Changxing did more than just take her virginity. She possessed a very rare constitution, the Tongyu Phoenix marrow body. In the early stages, this constitution doesn't offer any benefits for cultivation. But after a breakthrough into the core formation stage, it becomes effective. A strand of spirit-nurturing energy would emerge within her body. This spirit-nurturing energy has the effect of purifying the true elixir and enhancing the consolidation of the nascent soul. Yet this spirit-nurturing energy, after her Tongyu Phoenix marrow body was deflowered, automatically entered Lu Changsheng's body. And there's no way to reclaim or regenerate this energy. It can only grow and be nourished within Lu Changsheng's body, using their Tongyu Phoenix marrow bodies and a secret dual cultivation technique as a catalyst, thus allowing the spirit-nurturing energy to benefit both the man and woman in refining the true elixir and enhancing the nascent soul. Previously, even though the Red Phoenix Fiend submitted and pledged loyalty to her, he desired to dual cultivate with her, precisely because of her Tongyu Phoenix marrow body and the spirit-nurturing energy within it. But now, her spirit-nurturing energy has entered the body of Lu Changxing, a minor cultivator in the Qi refinement realm. She had just checked Lu Changsheng's spiritual root grade. It was only an 8th grade spiritual root. This revelation left her dumbfounded. Such a spiritual root made core formation seem remote, let alone the challenge of achieving the foundation establishment stage. This view of Lu Changxing made Yun Wanshang speechless. She couldn't fathom how someone with such good looks could have such a poor spiritual root. Having cultivated arduously to core formation and possessing the Tongyu Phoenix marrow body, she could have chosen any suitable husband, with a future prospect of reaching the nascent soul stage, but now, her heart was filled with a sense of grievance. Yun Wanshang stopped dwelling on these thoughts, not wanting to look at Lu Changxing anymore, as it would only make her more frustrated. With a wave of her hand, a pair of embroidered shoes adorned with lotus flowers flew onto her feet, and she transformed into a rainbow of light and left, disappearing from the cave. Phew! Upon seeing the woman leave, Lu Changxing heaved a deep sigh. Turning into a rainbow to fly, this woman must be a nascent soul immortal, right? Could it be that the duel that night involved this woman fighting against someone else? Considering the situation, Lu Changxing mused internally. He also waved his hand, picking up and donning his clothes. Just then, a jade pendant flew steadily from the sky and landed in front of him. This jade pendant can conceal your aura. If you ever face a life-threatening crisis in the future, you may activate this pendant. Should you successfully reach the Foundation establishment, I may consider giving you a chance. Meanwhile, a cold and indifferent voice sounded in Lu Changsheng's ears. It was Yun Wanshang's voice. Facing a life-threatening crisis, activate the jade pendant? Success in Foundation establishment, given a chance? Upon hearing these words, Lu Changsheng picked up the jade pendant, his face lighting up with joy and excitement. It seemed this fairy wasn't as heartless as he thought, who would no longer recognize him once Shed put on her skirt. Perhaps she was someone with a cold exterior but a warm heart. Lu Changsheng still had confidence in reaching Foundation establishment. After all, he had the system on his side. As long as the child proved to be promising and diligent, what fairy or witch couldn't he, a father, marry? There and then, Lu Changsheng bowed towards the sky. Thank you, fairy. I, Lu Changsheng, will surely strive to cultivate to the Foundation establishment stage. However, there was no response from the heavens. Lu Changsheng stood for a while, and when he received no reply and sensed the other party had truly left, he began to examine the jade pendant in his hand. The palm-sized pendant was painted with clouds and mists, and 9-colored radiance flowed within it. Lu Changsheng couldn't discern the quality of the jade pendant, but he felt that a gift from a nascent soul immortal must be a top-grade magic artifact or a spiritual artifact. Who would have thought that I, Lu Changsheng, would end up living off a woman? Lu Changsheng thought to himself internally. Now, he seemed to have a nascent soul immortal as support. If he encountered any peril in the future, he could call upon a nascent soul immortal for help. However, he felt that if he really activated the pendant for help, it would probably be the end of his association with this colorfully robed woman. Only after his successful Foundation establishment could he activate the pendant to seek her out and then have further interactions with her. Which was reasonable. The other party was a nascent soul immortal, and he was just a weakling in the Qi refinement realm. Her willingness to give him a chance after he reached Foundation establishment was already very generous. But if I want to officially marry her and have children, I'm afraid I'll at least have to reach the core formation stage, right? And I wonder if our 3 nights of effort could have resulted in a pregnancy? If so, any child born would surely be extraordinary, right? Lu Changsheng secretly contemplated, and then shook his head. He was getting ahead of himself, thinking about her bearing children for him when there was not even the slightest sign this would happen. Moreover, for cultivators who did not wish to conceive, no matter what the effort, it would be in vain. Then, Lu Changsheng turned his attention to the peach blossom goo in his spiritual sea and said, "You little thing have really outdone yourself, being so inconspicuous and unnoticed, yet causing such a big commotion when you do appear, huh?" The peach blossom goo feeds on the luck of romantic encounters. The more prosperous the romantic luck around the host, the faster the peach blossom goo grows. During these 3 days, not only did Lu Changsheng himself gain an increase in his cultivation level, the peach blossom goo also rapidly grew, nearing the threshold of transformation. Even Lu Changsheng, as naive as he was, knew that his recent streak of romantic luck couldn't be unrelated to the peach blossom goo. But this thing seems like a double-edged sword. After all, romantic luck, if not handled properly, can easily turn into a romantic calamity. Chapter 109. You feel wronged, I feel even more wronged. Lu Changsheng exhaled a long breath before checking the state of his cultivation level, to see the fruits of his efforts over the past 3 days. During the dual cultivation of joy in these 3 days, he could distinctly feel a light and ethereal spiritual energy moving within him. It caused his cultivation level to rise rapidly and filled his body with inexhaustible strength. Otherwise, after 3 days and nights without rest, Lu Changsheng felt he really couldn't have withstood it. Lu Changsheng saw that in his Qi ocean core, where once there had been a trickle of spiritual energy, there was now a small stream. with a slight circulation of spiritual power, he immediately felt an inner surge like a flowing stream, far more vigorous than before. This was the manifestation of the 6th level energy refinement. And he had reached the peak of the 6th level. As long as he broke through the bottleneck from the middle stage to the later stage, he could advance from the 6th level to the 7th level energy refinement. At the peak of the 6th level energy refinement, in just 3 days' time, I've broken through from the 4th level to the peak of the 6th level. This speed is simply, relying on my own slow cultivation, it would take at least a decade to go from the 4th level to the peak of the 6th level, right? Moreover, the enhanced spiritual power doesn't have the slightest bit of hollowness. In fact, it is even more robust than before. Lu Changsheng looked at the spiritual energy in his Qi ocean core, filled with excitement. Immediately, his eyes brightened with joy and excitement. Not only have I made a breakthrough to the 6th level, but my 100 refinements treasure body art has also succeeded. The first layer has been cultivated. Lu Changsheng's eyes sparkled with determination and spirit as he suddenly clenched his fist and struck fiercely towards the cave wall. Bang! That punch, like a heavy hammer, smashed into the wall, leaving behind a large crater with a network of dense cracks spreading and a shower of rocks falling from above. This punch, it's got to be worth 20 years of strength. Lu Changsheng looked at the effect of his punch, his face full of delight. Then, as if thinking of something, he pulled out a flying sword from his storage bag. It was an inferior flying sword obtained from a robber cultivator. He then gently drew the flying sword across the skin of his finger. A faint resistance transmitted, leaving a white mark on his finger. If I apply force, it can still cut through. But this defensive power is decent. To truly become immune to a magic artifact with flesh alone, it's probably necessary to cultivate the 100 refinements treasure body technique to the 4th layer, right? Lu Changsheng did not continue to experiment, feeling very satisfied with his current situation, extremely so. He felt better than ever before, as if he could entertain 10 women through the night. At this moment, Lu Changsheng faintly sensed traces of a weak energy still roaming inside his body. He closed his eyes and quietly felt it. This energy, could it be the light and ethereal energy that entered my body during the dual cultivation? Could it still be in my body? Not only did this energy allow my cultivation level to break directly through to the 6th level energy refinement, but it also had an effect of marrow cleansing and nurturing the flesh. What exactly is this? Is it the effect of a cultivation technique, or could it be that she possesses some kind of spiritual body that's beneficial to dual cultivation? Lu Changsheng sensed this energy, which he couldn't control, and speculated in his mind. He immediately dismissed it as a cultivation technique. After all, that kind of cultivation technique was usually for cauldron-based cultivation. And how could someone capable of reaching nascent soul immortal be cultivating such techniques? That left only the spiritual body. Lu Changsheng, who read so much in his free time, knew that in the cultivation world, some cultivators not only possessed a spiritual root but also had some inherent spiritual body talents. Like the Gingjin body constitution. Cultivating the metal attribute cultivation technique not only allowed for a faster cultivation speed by several folds, but also the power exerted by the metal attribute cultivation techniques was also higher than that of ordinary cultivators. There was also something like a pure yang physique. If one cultivated the yang energy cultivation technique without breaking their body, they would make rapid progress. But once they did, not only would the effect be lost, they might also lose cultivation levels. There were also some other physiques beneficial to dual cultivation, like the charming female physique, primordial yin physique, and plain lady physique. Lu Changsheng guessed that this woman in the colorful skirt might possess some kind of physique like that, which was why he could obtain so many benefits. Being able to cultivate to the nascent soul immortal, possessing a spiritual body, it does make sense. Lu Changsheng murmured. Spiritual bodies were even rarer than spiritual roots. He read in books that even among cultivators, a spiritual body was 1 in 10,000. At the time, Lu Changsheng had also thought that if his own child were to have a spiritual body, whether it could give him a boost and let him have a spiritual body too. Did she give me this jade pendant to hide this whiff of light spiritual energy, rather than to hide my cultivation level? Lu Changxing looked at the jade pendant the woman in the colorful skirt gave him, his face showing sudden realization. Initially, he thought that the jade pendant was meant to conceal his cultivation level's spiritual power. Now it seemed he had thought too much. Does this mean that if this whiff of energy is detected by others, it will bring me trouble? Lu Changxing pondered further. Nevertheless, he shook his head. He currently could not control or expel that wisp of energy. With this jade pendant, he should not have to worry too much. Also, with this jade pendant, he shouldn't worry too much about his cultivation level. Otherwise, upon returning home, if the Lu family noticed that he had broken through to the 6th level energy refinement, it would be difficult to explain. After checking his physical condition, Lu Changxing glanced at the iron feather eagle in the spiritual pet bag. The iron feather eagle had already recovered to normal. It was just extremely hungry from not eating for 3 days. Immediately, he took out a spirit-nourishing pill and a large chunk of demon beast meat to feed the iron feather eagle. After the iron feather eagle had its fill, he looked at the cave where he had obtained a supreme opportunity, then mounted the iron feather eagle and flew towards Qingzhou Mountain. Now that his strength had greatly increased, Lu Changxing found his mindset to be much more stable, no longer as worried as when he had just left the Nine Dragons market. Indeed, cultivation level is the foundation of one's confidence. But I must not become arrogant. I am still a weak qi refinement cultivator, absolutely must not get carried away. However, now that I have the strength of the 6th level energy refinement, I can try drawing supreme talismans. Once I have plenty of supreme talismans, not only will I be safer, but I also won't have to worry about making money. Lu Changxing, riding on the iron feather eagle, gazed at the scenery in front of him, feeling that the days ahead were getting more promising by the moment. Qingyun Sect. Kaiyun Peak. Yun Wanshang soaked in the spiritual pool for a long time before she slowly got up, looking at her body that seemed to be crafted by the heavens as she bit her lip gently. She soaked for quite a while longer before raising her hand to clothe herself, regaining the appearance of a dignified, noble, and high-status fairy. My trip outside to acquire the purple spirit liquid, encountering an ambush by Red Luan old demon on the way back, was it a coincidence? Or was there someone scheming behind it? Yun Wanshang's beautiful face was calm, and a touch of coldness surfaced in her eyes. Then, with a slight movement of her lips, she sent a sound transmission to a female disciple in a courtyard on the mountain peak. Shiyu, come to the Great Hall to see me. Chapter 110. Fairies Cultivation. _1 Tall pines and verdant cypresses, on the Thousandjiang peaks where waterfalls descended and streams flowed, palace after palace was erected. In the magnificent palace at the peak, emptiness reigned, save for a colorfully dressed woman standing gracefully and poised. Master? At that moment, a beautiful woman with a graceful figure and white clothes billowing like sails entered the great hall. Looking at the woman in colorful clothes inside the hall, her beautiful and spirited eyes brightened as she gave a ceremonious bow, her voice sweet and gentle. Shiyu, you have arrived. Yun Wanshang turned around upon seeing her disciple, revealing a smile on her stunning face. She said to Xiao Shiyu in a voice tinged with authority, Shiyu, I have gathered all the medicinal ingredients needed for the red dust elixir, but I must ask you once more, have you really made up your mind? With your 4th grade spiritual root and the innate moonlight spirit body, even if you do not cultivate the supreme forgetful love technique, you would still aspire to core formation. Yun Wanshang spoke thus. Her recent expedition to collect purple spirit liquid was for the sake of her disciples' cultivation, to refine an elixir medicine. Upon hearing these words, Xiao Shiyu lightly pressed her lips together, and a serious expression appeared on her enchanting face. Then, with resolute eyes, she looked at Yun Wanshang and saluted with hands cupped. Master, Shiyu has decided, and I will have no regrets. Alas! Looking at Xiao Shiyu with her determined expression, Yun Wanshang sighed softly in her heart. She was uncertain whether mentioning the supreme forgetful love technique to her disciple back then was right or wrong. The supreme forgetful love technique was a cultivation method she had acquired in a secret realm. Despite its power, it also had obvious side effects. After cultivating it, one would gradually become indifferent, unmoved by emotions or disturbed by feelings. Ordinarily, Xiaoxiyu was lively and clever, much to her liking, but if she were to cultivate the supreme forgetful love technique, she feared Xiyu's demeanor would be completely altered. Nevertheless, Yun Wanshang did not offer any further persuasion. She gave a slight nod and said, "Good, since you have decided, I will ask Elder Yun to refine the red dust elixir for you." She also understood that even with Xiaoxiyu's talent and gifts, core formation was only a hope. But if she could master the supreme forgetful love technique, it would no longer be just a hope. As long as she did not die prematurely, she would certainly achieve core formation. There might even be hope for further advancements. That was the reason why she had given Xiaoxiyu the choice of the supreme forgetful love technique in the first place. The azure sky, clear for thousands of miles. An iron feather eagle with jet black feathers glided through the air. "We were delayed for 3 or 4 days on the journey. I wonder if I can still make it in time?" Lu Changsheng sat cross-legged on the iron feather eagle, his heart full of concern for Lu Miaoyun, who was about to give birth. By his original calculations, he would arrive home early enough to be there for the birth of Lu Miaoyun's child. However, the ambush on the way and the 3 days and nights in the cave had delayed him. He was uncertain whether Lu Miaoyun had already given birth. At that moment, suddenly, a mysterious and profound throbbing arose within Lu Changsheng. He recognized this throbbing very well. It was the stirring of the spiritual root. Lu Changsheng abruptly looked into the distance towards Qingzhou Mountain, his face alight with joy and excitement. At this moment, he seemed to hear the cry of a baby from afar. My child has been born." This profound throbbing gave Lu Changsheng a feeling as if there was a blood connection. He knew Lu Miaoyun had given birth, and his own child had entered the world. And this child did not disappoint his expectations or hopes. He possessed a spiritual root. This sensation of the spiritual root's enhancement seems to be stronger than the previous 2 times. Lu Changsheng reflected on the fleeting moment of the spiritual root's stirring. Having already 3 children with spiritual roots, bolstered by 3 increments, he could sense the subtle differences brought by the enhancement of the spiritual root. For his previous 3 children, their spiritual roots, he was rather certain, 1 with a 9th grade spiritual root, and 2 with 8th grade spiritual roots. This child now had a high likelihood of having a 7th grade spiritual root. Just like Lu Miaoyun's spiritual root. Ha! In that moment, Lu Changsheng exhaled deeply, his gaze fixed in the direction of Qingzhou Mountain, his heart yearning to return home. After a good part of the day, an iron feather eagle descended outside Qingzhou Mountain. Lu Changsheng stored the iron feather eagle back into his spiritual pet bag, took out his identity token, and after entering the valley he transformed into a shadow, racing toward his home. Husband! Husband! Daddy! Daddy's back! As soon as Lu Changsheng stepped into the manor, his wives and the playing children saw him and greeted him with joyful expressions, shouting to Lu Changsheng, "Husband, Sister Miaoyun has already given birth today. It's a boy." One of the wives approached and informed Lu Changsheng. "Good, I'll go see Miaoyun." Lu Changsheng nodded and made his way to a certain courtyard. He saw Lu Miaoyun in the courtyard holding a swaddled baby, her face beaming with maternal radiance. Chu Zhenjin and several wives were at her side, watching over the child and chatting with her. "Husband!" The women showed delight at Lu Changsheng's return. Lu Changsheng nodded slightly, then said to Lu Miaoyun, "Miaoyun, I apologize for coming back late due to some mishaps on the way." He had promised Lu Miaoyun that he would arrive before the birth of their child. Although he initially planned to make it in time, due to unforeseen occurrences, he was delayed by half a day. There was also some guilt in his heart. "It's all right, husband." Lu Miaoyun, having just given birth, was still somewhat weak and her complexion was a bit pale. She bore no blame for Lu Changsheng, and instead looked at him with concern, inquiring, "Husband, what mishap did you encounter on the road? Was there any danger?" "I just ran into a few minor robber cultivators, but with the protection talismans from grandmother, there was no real danger. Chapter 111. Fairies' Cultivation. Lu Changsheng smiled and said, "Robber cultivators?" Lu Miaoyun and the other women were shocked upon hearing this, showing a terrified expression. They naturally knew that the cultivation world was extremely dangerous. There were many cultivators who bullied the weak, robbed at will, and killed for treasure. These kinds of cultivators were known as robber cultivators. Those who became robber cultivators also possessed certain strengths and methods. They hadn't expected that on the way home, their husband had actually encountered a robber cultivator. They also knew that their husband's cultivation level wasn't high. He had only recently broken through to the 4th level of qi refinement and had not experienced much life and death fighting. "Husband, it's too dangerous for you to travel back and forth each month like this. With Sister Miaoga around, it's alright, but if you're alone in the future, you might encounter danger. Why don't you talk to Grandma and stop coming back every month, or wait until second Grandpa comes home and travel back with him?" Lu Miaoyun said, her face showing a touch of worry. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng felt warmth in his heart. He had similarly considered this matter himself. He thought of bringing Lu Miaoyun and the other women like Chu Xinjin to the 9 Dragons market as well. Otherwise, traveling back and forth each month could still lead to danger. Although he now had the cultivation of the 6th level of qi refinement and could draw some supreme talismans to protect himself, not fearing ordinary robber cultivators, what if he met a Foundation establishment great cultivator? And if he encountered an accident like this time again? What if his stroke of luck turned into a disaster? So, for safety's sake, Lu Changsheng decided it was best not to travel back and forth as much. Instead, he planned to live quietly and securely in the 9 Dragons market. "Let's talk about this matter later. Let me see our child first." Lu Changsheng smiled, planning to discuss the matter with the 4th elder later. He then looked toward the child in Lu Miaoyun's arms. Since both he and Lu Miaoyun were cultivators, this child also looked noticeably more adorable and attractive. With shining black eyes and smooth, fair skin, not reddened and wrinkled. Holding the child in his arms, Lu Changsheng couldn't help but smile. He could clearly feel that he would be even more fond of this child. Indeed, how could one be completely impartial and fair? After all, there will always be favoritism and preference, Lu Changsheng mused internally. He had long known that with many children, it was impossible for him to treat them all equally. With children like Lu Pingan, Lu Wuyo, Lu Wuyu, and Lu Shila, it was still manageable. But as the number of children increased, besides a few who usually pleased him, he would noticeably favor the children with a spiritual root. "Husband, why don't you name this child?" At this moment, Lu Miaoyun, looking at the delighted Lu Changsheng holding the child, said softly, "A name." Lu Changsheng pondered for a moment upon hearing this and smiled. "Let's call him Lu Yun." The name suggests ambition and a broad and profound future, and it shares a similar sound with your name, Miaoyun. Now with many children, naming had also become more difficult. So, Lu Changsheng became somewhat more casual about naming his children. Lu Yun. Lu Miaoyun, hearing this name, immediately had a glint of admiration in her eyes, looking at Lu Changsheng with tenderness and affection. Then she smiled toward the child in the swaddle. "From now on, your name will be Lu Yun Yun." From now on, not only will the husband have a big yuner, but also a little yuner, said another wife jokingly. "What little yuner, big yuner? In my heart, there's only one yuner," Lu Changsheng immediately said, embracing Lu Miaoyun who was beside him. Hearing this, Lu Miaoyun instantly blushed, leaning sweetly and contentedly into Lu Changsheng's embrace, drawing giggles and envy from the other wives nearby. Just like that, Lu Changsheng spent time with Lu Miaoyun, Chu Xinjin, and his numerous wives. It wasn't until the next day that he found some free time. He went to the study and began to meditate and cultivate, to see how much his cultivation speed had increased after the addition of his son's spiritual root. After cultivating for an hour, Lu Changsheng could sense that his cultivation speed had increased by about 20%. This confirmed to him that his son had a 7th grade spiritual root. The cultivation speed with a 7th grade spiritual root is almost 30% faster than that with an 8th grade spiritual root, and it's easier to break through bottlenecks. Once this child grows a bit and his spiritual root fully matures, my spiritual root will be upgraded to the 7th grade. If the child in Zenshin's womb, due next month, also has a spiritual root, my spiritual root might directly advance to 7th grade. Then I imagine breaking through the bottleneck from the 6th level to the 7th level of Qi refinement will be much simpler. Otherwise, I don't know how long I would have to wait to break through from middle to later stage. Lu Changsheng's eyes twinkled with great anticipation. He had just finished an hour of cultivation, but there was hardly any movement in his Qi ocean core. It made him inwardly sigh at the difficulty of advancing from the middle to the later stages of Qi refinement. Thinking back to his own advancement from the 3rd level to the 4th level of Qi refinement, he had been stuck for more than a year. The bottleneck from the middle to later stages would only be harder, likely requiring 3 to 5 years of grinding. However, Lu Changsheng was already quite satisfied. Without this stroke of lucky encounter, he wouldn't have known how long it would take him to break through from the 4th level to the 6th level of Qi refinement. Just the experience of advancing from the 4th level to the 6th level in 3 days had made him somewhat reluctant to strive harder. He fondly reminisced about those magical and enchanting 3 days and nights. If I could have continued for 10 days or half a month back then, could I have directly advanced to the pinnacle of Qi refinement? Lu Changsheng couldn't help but think. Chapter 112. Fairies' Cultivation. But thinking about it, he knew it couldn't be possible. Not to mention that others might not be willing, such an improvement probably wasn't so simple. Hiss, Lu Changsheng, oh Lu Changsheng, how could you have such thoughts? No sooner had the idea appeared than Lu Changsheng immediately felt he was being somewhat degenerate. Even if I improved my strength and broke through the realm in this way, what would it amount to? Such improvements would leave my state of mind, skills, and power unfit for my cultivation realm, leading to a shaky foundation. Only through my own efforts, step by step, keeping grounded, and the principle of more children, more blessings, can I truly enhance myself and attain the ultimate way. All other paths are but passing clouds. Only by taking wives and concubines, having children, and advancing step by step can one reach the end. Lu Changsheng immediately introspected, cast aside the crooked thoughts in his mind, firmed his belief, and adhered to the path of self-improvement with the more children, more blessings policy. Phew, don't forget why you started, and you will be able to endure to the end. Remember the original intention. Lu Changsheng took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. Afterward, he took out his talisman-making tools, ready to attempt crafting a supreme talisman. His biggest issue with crafting high-level talismans before was his cultivation level. Now, having broken through to the 6th level of energy refinement, this issue had been easily resolved. He laid out the talisman paper, and with a magic artifact pen in hand, he gently dipped it in spiritual ink. Then with his palm, where spiritual power flowed, he transferred it to the pen, making the tip brim with spiritual light. As the pen touched the paper, it moved like a dragon or snake, the strokes channeling spiritual power fluidly, without the slightest delay. A moment later, Lu Changsheng lifted his hand. Arcs of thunder spread over the talisman paper. A first-grade superior talisman, Thunder Summoning Talisman, was made. Previously, Lu Changsheng found it somewhat strenuous to craft the Thunder Summoning Talisman. He had to be extremely careful during the process to avoid failure. But now, it was like eating and drinking. With my current cultivation at the 6th level, I should be able to craft 3 or 4 superior talismans at a time. Lu Changsheng felt the consumption of spiritual power within his body and mumbled to himself. Before, crafting one Thunder Summoning Talisman would leave him feeling drained. Immediately, Lu Changsheng took out another piece of talisman paper and began crafting a first-grade supreme talisman, the Thunder Talisman. As he crafted the Thunder Talisman, a sense of seriousness and concentration appeared on Lu Changsheng's face. The spirited pen moved slowly on the talisman paper, outlining one talisman line after another, with the patterns flickering with spiritual light. However, before he was even halfway through the outline, the talisman paper suddenly made a ZZT sound and emitted a puff of smoke. I suddenly broke through to the peak of the 6th level of energy refinement and am not yet familiar with it. My control is still lacking a bit. Lu Changxing shook his head. He immediately knew what the problem was. One issue was the middle-grade magic artifact pen, which wasn't quite up to the task of crafting a supreme talisman. The second was that his control over spiritual power was insufficient. So with both problems combined, the excessive spiritual power during the drawing process caused the lines to be unstable, resulting in a failed crafting. But these weren't real problems, just things that required a bit more familiarization. Feeling the spiritual power within his body, Lu Changxing didn't continue with talisman making. He planned to wait until later when his spiritual power and mental spirit recovered before trying to craft a supreme talisman again. With a cultivation level at the 6th level, crafting a supreme talisman was not an issue. But he could likely only make one at a time, without the possibility of continuous crafting. Having just crafted one superior talisman and half of a supreme talisman, it had taken a toll on him. He needed to take it slow. Moreover, such matters were not to be rushed. Lu Changxing left his home, ready to visit the 4th elder and discuss the matter of running between two places. But just as he stepped out, he learned that the 4th elder had already come to his home to visit his great-grandson. Immediately, Lu Changxing headed to the backyard. He saw the 4th elder with a loving smile, holding his son Lu Yun and chatting happily with Lu Miaoyun. "Grandmother." Lu Changxing stepped forward and greeted with a slight bow. "Changxing, you're here." The 4th elder nodded toward Lu Changxing and said, "I just heard from Yuner that you encountered a robber cultivator on your way back, is that so?" "Yes, but with the talisman you gave me, Grandma, Changxing didn't experience any mishaps." Lu Changxing said so. "Grandma was just thinking, it's indeed dangerous for you to be traveling back and forth alone. Even with a talisman at hand, it's still not safe. Therefore, Grandma thinks, why don't you just stop going to Nine Dragons Market? I can find someone else to manage the spiritual talisman shop there, and you can just stay at home in peace." The 4th elder spoke, saying this. She had wanted Lu Changxing to go to Nine Dragons Market to manage the shop as a way for him to gain experience and learn something. But if any accident were to happen on these journeys, it would be more loss than gain. So, she would rather Lu Changxing stay put at Qingju Mountain without going out. Lu Changxing was somewhat surprised upon hearing this. He had thought the 4th elder would allow him not to come back every month. He had not expected the 4th elder to directly suggest that he stay at Qingju Mountain and not go out at all. If it had been before, he wouldn't have cared. He would have just comfortably stayed put at Qingju Mountain. But now, having tasted the conveniences and benefits of Nine Dragons Market, he had a preference for staying there long-term. Otherwise, spending all his days at Qingju Mountain, he would miss out on buying materials for the 100 Refinements treasure body art, materials for talisman making, earning spirit stones, or even finding a girl. Grandma, Changxing still wants to go to Nine Dragons Market to experience the outside world. However, I'm thinking of bringing Yuner and the others to Nine Dragons Market later on. When coming back home, I can come with the 2nd elder. Lu Changxing voiced his thoughts. Yesterday, he had also heard from Lu Miaoyun that the 2nd elder would return after a certain period of time as well. That's also fine. With your talent in talisman making, there's not much more Grandma can teach you, and you don't have to come back every month. As for the matter with Yuner, you and your wife can discuss it among yourselves. It's not a problem to come back with the 2nd elder. The 2nd elder comes back almost every 6 months, which is also suitable, said the 4th elder after a moment of contemplation, nodding her assent. She could understand Lu Changxing's thinking. After all, what 20-something-year-old would want to stay cooped up in Qingju Mountain all the time? Shortly after, Lu Changxing finished chatting with the 4th elder, and also discussed with Lu Miaoyun, Chu Jinjin, and the others about the subsequent arrangements. For this trip, he would stay at home, waiting for Chu Jinjin to give birth before going back to Nine Dragons Market. As for Lu Miaoyun and Chu Jinjin, there was no rush to head to Nine Dragons Market. They would first strengthen themselves in Qingzhou Mountain and take care of the child. Lu Pingan, Lu Wuyu, and the other children had been sent by Lu Miaoyun to White Deer Mountain Villa not long ago to study. If everyone left, there would be no one to watch over so many children at home. Thus, Lu Changxing settled down in Qingzhou Valley, waiting for Chu Zhenjin to have the baby. In the meantime, Lu Changxing tested out the effects of the 100 Refinements treasure body art a little. All he could say was, it truly lived up to the orthodox level body refining techniques. Just the first level alone, and his physical body was comparable to a magic artifact, capable of dealing with 10 women in a single night. It just made him think about when he could get his hands on another cultivation technique that refined the 5 viscera and 6 bowels. Ideally, one that would transform his kidneys into an eternal furnace. In the blink of an eye, a month passed. That day, Lu Changxing was feeding the 9 netherhound in the courtyard. The 9 netherhound was now over a meter tall, its fur black and glossy, with sharp, interlocking fangs protruding from its mouth and vertical pupils that intimidated the soul. Lu Changxing felt that in a few years, anyone would be able to see the 9 netherhound's extraordinariness. The idea of setting the 9 netherhound free, letting it grow on its own outside, seemed indeed worth considering. Just then, Chu Zhenjin suddenly cried out in pain, signaling that she was about to give birth. Chapter 113, Having a Baby. Pregnancy plus 10. Lottery draw _1 outside the birthing room. Lu Changxing, holding his son Lu Chuanjin and accompanied by several wives and concubines, waited outside. Lu Chuanjin was his first child with Chu Zhenjin, possessing an 8th grade spiritual root. Wah! Soon, a clear cry of a baby echoed from the birthing room, invigorating Lu Changxing's spirit. However, at this moment, he felt no anomaly, no palpitations. Immediately, Lu Changxing knew. The child Chu Zhenjin bore had no spiritual root. Having anticipated this for so long, upon learning at this moment that the child had no spiritual root, to say there was no disappointment would be impossible. But in a moment, Lu Changxing came to terms with it. Even if both parents had spiritual roots, the probability of their child being born with one was only about 10 to 20%. That Chu Zhenjin's first birth and Lu Miaoyun's child last month both had spiritual roots was already a blessing. How could one expect each and every one to possess a spiritual root? Lu Changxing was quite open-minded about this and walked into the birthing room, still holding Lu Chuanjin. The midwife immediately carefully handed over the swaddled infant to Lu Changxing with a full-faced smile, saying, "Congratulations, young master, it's a baby girl." "Good, thank you for your efforts." Upon hearing the words, Lu Changxing smiled as he took the swaddle and looked at the child. Since Chu Zhenjin's previous child was a boy, and this one was a girl, they were blessed with both a son and a daughter. "Chuanjin, this is your younger sister." Lu Changxing looked at the newborn child and said to Lu Chuanjin, Lu Chuanjin, already a year and a half old, could say some simple words. He looked at his newly born sister with curious eyes, babbling away. Lu Changxing approached the bed and placed Lu Chuanjin down. Seeing Chu Zhenjin's somewhat pale and weak face, Lu Changxing felt pained as he took her small hand, saying, "Zhenjin, you've worked hard." He had always been quite fond of this girl, whom he had saved halfway through her life. One reason was the girl's indeed cleverness and understanding nature that endeared her to everyone. Another reason was that Chu Zhenjin had a spiritual root, and he had had ulterior motives when bringing Chu Zhenjin back to Qingzhou Mountain. Furthermore, given her pitiable background, alone with no one but himself, he afforded her an extra share of affection. "Husband." A smile appeared on Chu Zhenjin's face as she softly called out to Lu Changxing, then tried to sit up to look at the child. "Look, how adorable! She will certainly be as cute as you, Zhenjin, when she grows up." Lu Changxing immediately handed the child over for her to see, saying with a smile, "Chuanjin, you must take good care of your sister and protect her. Do you understand?" Chu Zhenjin smiled, then turned to her somewhat confused son Lu Chuanjin and gently said, Seeing Chu Zhenxin's expression, Lu Changxing knew she was thinking of her own childhood, thinking of her brother, Chu Chang'e. He hadn't told Chu Zhenxin about the news of Chu Chang'e's demon cultivation. He just said that people were searching, but there was still no news. Now, more than 2 years later, with no news of her brother, Chu Zhenxin gradually realized that her brother was likely more unfortunate than fortunate. Thereupon, Lu Changxing took Chu Zhenxin's hand and gently comforted her. "As long as you have me, I will also take good care of all of you and protect you." In this world, wives and children are also his soft spot and one of the driving forces behind his efforts. In his view, if one couldn't even protect one's wives and children, then the path of immortality was cultivated in vain. "Husband, have you thought of a name for this child?" Chu Zhenxin asked, her pretty face showing a sweet smile. "The name? Let's call her Yuzhen." Lu Changxing pondered for a moment and named the little girl in his arms. "Chuanzhen, Yuzhen." Chu Zhenxin heard the name, murmured it, and then softly said to the little girl, "Yuzhen, Lu Yuzhen." The infant in her arms also cried out with a wah, as if responding. Seeing this scene, both Lu Changxing and Chu Zhenxin couldn't help but look at each other and smile. Soon after, the couple chatted for a while, and Lu Changxing told Chu Zhenxin to rest well before leaving the room with the children. Atop a solemn, austere, and eerily sinister platform, the cold wind howled. Around the platform stood tall metallic flagpoles, upon which black banners embroidered with various demon patterns flapped. Some had 3 heads and 6 arms, some had ferocious faces, some were covered in eyes, some had the bodies of demons and humans with wings, and others were headless with faces on their chests. These varied and lifelike patterns could chill the hearts of those who saw them, as if they were being watched by demons themselves. In the center of the platform sat a man in his 20s with an austere face and white hair, surrounded by many strange patterns and runes etched around him. At this time, dark red blood traced the patterns, continuously flowing towards the center where the white-haired young man sat. The man's face was contorted in pain, his fists clenched tightly, veins bulging, blood pulsing, and sweat pouring from his body. But the white-haired young man just bit down hard on his teeth, uttering no sound, enduring the ordeal. No one knew how much time passed when suddenly, the demon patterns on the surrounding banners seemed to come to life. Their crimson eyes suddenly opened, staring down at the white-haired man, filling the platform with an overwhelming blood-colored glow. Enveloped in this blood-red light, the white-haired young man let out a muffled groan. Blood flowed from his eyes, ears, mouth, and nose, and the veins in his body bulged like worms, nearly bursting open. Boom! Just then, drenched in blood and in severe pain, the white-haired man's body emitted a thin, blood-red membrane. It was like a layer of freshly spilled blood slowly flowing over his skin, transforming into an eerie blood-colored battle dress. Chapter 114. Having a baby. Pregnancy plus 10. Lottery draw. The pale-faced youth's face and skin revealed dark red demon patterns. Indeed, in less than a year's time, you've cultivated the demonic technique to completion. Just at that moment, a young man dressed in a black robe, with an exceptionally handsome face, walked out of the void. He looked at the pale-faced youth and revealed a satisfied smile. Then, with a wave of his hand, he and the pale-faced youth disappeared from the platform. 4 days after Chu Zhenxin gave birth, Lu Miaoge also returned to Qingzhou Mountain. She made an agreement with Lu Changxing to depart for the 9 Dragons market in 3 days. In the following days, Lu Changxing discussed with his wives and concubines, and ultimately decided to let them stay on Qingzhou Mountain. It wasn't just that traveling back and forth was inconvenient. There were so many children at home in need of care, he couldn't bear to leave them. In the more than a month he spent at home, Lu Changxing didn't slack off, but made every effort to impregnate 2 of his wives. With these 2 children, he now had 34 in total. However, when he thought about how his 29th and 30th children were still nearly 3 months from being born, Lu Changxing couldn't help but sigh. He felt that he had been somewhat negligent during that time, to have such a long gap. 3 days later, Lu Changsheng rode the iron feather eagle with Lu Miaoge as they set out for the Nine Dragons market. Before their departure, the fourth elder gave him 3 protective talismans. 2 thunder summoning talismans and 1 thunder talisman. Lu Changsheng had told the fourth elder that he had been forced to use the 2 talismans when he encountered a robber cultivator before. Even though Lu Changsheng now had 9 supreme talismans in his storage bag, he naturally accepted the fourth elder's kindness with a delighted and grateful expression. Their journey to the Nine Dragons market was very smooth, with no unexpected incidents. This made Lu Changsheng inquire whether Lu Miaoge had encountered any unexpected dangers or robber cultivators during her years of traveling back and forth to the market. Lu Miaoge said that in 3 years, she had only encountered a robber cultivator once. Hearing this, Lu Changsheng couldn't help but shake his head, wondering if he was just unlucky or if he looked like easy prey. After returning home, Lu Changsheng learned from a casual conversation with little Qing that the family next door to his left had moved away about half a month after he returned to Qingzhou Mountain. This led Lu Changsheng to secretly wonder if his assassination attempt had anything to do with this neighbor. After all, based on suspicions related to the allure spell, the 2 robber cultivators who tried to cut him down certainly had accomplices in Nine Dragons market. Moreover, when he previously visited this neighbor, he sensed a murderous aura on the person, making them unapproachable. And the fact that they moved away just half a month after he left was too coincidental. However, since the neighbor had moved away, whether they were involved or not, Lu Changsheng couldn't confirm and only became more cautious. Subsequently, Lu Changsheng used disguises to carefully dispose of some stolen goods. He sold the magic artifacts of the 2 robber cultivators, keeping only a middle-grade magical shield and 1 flying artifact for himself. The other 7 lower-grade magical instruments, for middle-grade magical instruments, and 1 flying artifact were all sold. These magic artifacts fetched a total of 908 spirit stones. The magical robe and magical shoes were somewhat damaged, severely discounted, and since he was dealing with a shop's buyback, the prices were low. Otherwise, if he had set up a stall to sell them himself, he could have earned a few dozen more spirit stones. As for the elixir medicines, talismans, and various other items on the 2 robber cultivators, they were not easy to sell. Lu Changsheng used what he could and stored the rest for later. Previously, he had acquired 362 spirit stones from the 2 robber cultivators. Now, keeping the magical shield and flying artifact, he had sold items for 908 spirit stones, and Lu Changsheng was very satisfied with this haul. He began to feel that the 2 robber cultivators weren't so detestable after all. While selling the magic artifacts, he also casually sold over 100 middle and lower grade talismans. He earned 211 spirit stones. Looking at the substantial sum of spirit stones on him, Lu Changsheng didn't hesitate to spend 634 spirit stones to purchase a superior grade soft magic armor. This soft magic armor had 7 major effects: size adjustment, spell immunity, invisibility, cleanliness, dust repelling, evil warding, and body protection. What Lu Changsheng appreciated the most were the spell immunity and body protection effects. This spell immunity wasn't literally immunity to all spells. It could mainly ignore most early-stage Qi refinement spells and alleviate some of the damage from middle-stage Qi refinement spells. The body protection effect didn't need much explanation. In times of danger, it could passively trigger a body-protecting technique capable of blocking a single strike from a 9th-level energy refinement cultivator. It was primarily for these 2 effects that Lu Changsheng was willing to spend so many spirit stones on this magic artifact. He then spent 219 spirit stones to buy a middle-grade magic belt. This magic belt had 2 main effects: storage and body protection. What Lu Changsheng was mostly interested in was the body protection. After all, the previous assassination attempt made Lu Changsheng particularly fond of magic artifacts that offered protective techniques. He had talismans and talisman treasures for offense. He just needed to focus on boosting his defense now. After acquiring 2 magic artifacts, considering the issue of the robber cultivator's accomplices, Lu Changsheng saw the need for increased defenses. So he spent another 500 spirit stones to purchase a set of formation equipment to install in his yard. It was a first-grade middle-grade formation known as the 5-element formation, which provided offensive, defensive, and trapping effects. It was capable of dealing with middle-stage qi refinement cultivators without issue. Chapter 115. Having a baby. Pregnancy plus 10. Lottery draw. Dealing with energy refinement late-stage cultivators, it also has a certain effect. After buying things, Lu Changsheng couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. He really was someone who spent every spirit stone he had. He simply couldn't save any spirit stone. But this was also the situation for most cultivators. Most cultivators thought, if my neighbor stores grain, I store guns. My neighbor is my grain store. If you have spirit stones and don't use them, not using them to enhance your strength, in the end, you might just end up benefiting others, so not many people save money or resources. In the following days, Lu Changsheng's daily routine was cultivation, talisman making, going to work, and coming home to make babies. With half a month of effort as a key focus of Lu Changsheng's care, Guan Xian, who possessed a spiritual root, successfully became pregnant. After Guan Xian became pregnant, for the remaining 9 maids, Lu Changsheng was actually quite casual. If they got pregnant, they got pregnant. If not, it didn't matter. However, with such matters, as long as nothing happened, getting pregnant was just a matter of time. A little over a month later, 2 of Lu Changsheng's maids, Yi Lian and Song Lan, became pregnant. Hai Tang and Bai He have been arranged as housekeepers who have to work on daily tasks, so they better not get pregnant. But this way, won't the remaining 5 maids become pregnant in 2 or 3 months at most? When that time comes, do I have to buy another batch of maids? What does this make me, a breeding boar? Lu Changsheng heaved a deep sigh. Deep down, he still felt somewhat uneasy and burdened by this sort of thing. Feeling it was purely for the sake of procreation, without any emotional connection, seemed too much like a stud horse, which wasn't quite right. No, the women in the White Jade Tower are already in a bitter lot. What I'm doing is rescuing them from their misery, which is better than creating a 7-story pagoda. Moreover, I am doing this for cultivation, for becoming an immortal, for the great Tao, so whether I'm seen as a stud horse or not, even if misunderstood by others, as long as my conscience is clear, that's all that matters. Lu Changsheng took a deep breath, his eyes showing a determined look toward his cultivation. Another month or so passed by. Maids Hong Mian, Zi Mei, and Xue Xiao became pregnant. Lu Changsheng planned, once the remaining 2 women became pregnant, to make another trip to the White Jade Tower. By then he would also have saved a bit of extra money. He could see if there were any unfortunate ones with a spiritual root. One day, after Lu Changsheng arrived at the spiritual talisman shop, Lu Miaoge spoke to him. Changsheng, now that you're familiar with the shop, you can manage things on your own, she said. I'm planning to stop coming here after this month ends, and I'll just stay in the big courtyard in the Eastern District. If you have any problems, you can send messages or come find me. Lu Miaoge said. She had previously discussed this with Lu Changsheng, telling him that once he was familiar and adapted, she would no longer come. All right, Sister Miaoge, don't worry, I'll take care of the shop, Lu Changsheng said, nodding in agreement. He had been at the spiritual talisman shop for over half a year now. In this half year, he had completely understood and grasped the situation of the shop. There were no issues in managing it. And in the past 2 months, Lu Miaoge had completely let go of the reins and stopped managing affairs. She only came by to be available in case Lu Changsheng had any questions. So, last month, Lu Changsheng had set up a partnership with Zi Wusu. He would directly bring over 100 lower-grade talismans and 30 middle-grade talismans to the shop each month for purchase. As for the price, Lu Changsheng did not take much advantage of the shop, opting for a uniform 30% discount. This was mainly to avoid the unnecessary trouble and risk of disguising himself and running around every now and then. As for the superior-grade talismans and supreme talismans, Lu Changsheng hadn't sold any at the shop for the time being. He planned to consider selling a few superior-grade talismans at the shop after some time. 2 days later, Shopkeeper Zhang Shan handed the goods and the list over to Lu Changxing for inspection and spot checking. Now without Lu Miaoge, it took Lu Changxing a full 3 days to finish inspecting all the goods. I feel if I were to inspect these by myself, it really takes too much time and energy, he said. Lu Changxing let out a long sigh, feeling a bit dizzy. When Lu Miaoge was around, it wasn't too bad. With a man and a woman working together, the workload was easier to bear. But now, inspecting the goods on his own was unbearably tedious and annoying. Gao, he is also a middle-grade talisman master. Maybe I should ask him to come over and help every month? Lu Changxing suddenly remembered his neighbor, Gao He. Usually Gao He would come over to chat when he had nothing to do, inviting him over for tea. After interacting for so long, Lu Changxing thought highly of Gao He. So he thought, why not ask Gao He to come and help out for a few days each month? Of course, he wouldn't let him work for nothing. He would just ask if Gao He wanted to earn some extra money. Tonight after I go back, I will ask Gao He decided. Lu Changxing made up his mind, planning to ask him later. This sort of thing wasn't something to be embarrassed about. Night fell. After returning home and having dinner, Lu Changxing took a short walk and then knocked on his neighbor Gao He's door. Gao He was teaching his daughter Gao Xiaoya how to make talismans, and his normally amiable, plump face was somewhat twisted and distorted at the moment. Uncle Lu. Dad, Uncle Lu is here. You guys talk, he'll go make some tea for you. When Gao Xiaoya saw Lu Changxing, her eyes immediately brightened, and she quickly got up to make tea, looking relieved. She had absolutely no interest in talisman making and also had no talent for it. However, Gao He wanted his daughter to master the skill, no matter if she was talented or not. He planned to make it happen, even if it meant spending money. Brother Lu, do you have something on your mind? Gao He gave a wry smile at his daughter's behavior and then asked. Usually, it was mostly him inviting Lu Changxing over, as Lu Changxing seldom sought him out for a chat. So seeing Lu Changxing come over, he guessed that there must be something up. It's not any big deal, Lu Changxing immediately explained his situation. And he offered to pay 10 spirit stones for a day's work. For a middle-grade talisman master, this price was already quite good. Since Brother Lu trusts me, I'm more than happy to help. Gao He slapped his chest and said with a beaming smile. All right then, I'll be counting on you, Brother Gao, when the time comes. Having finished, Lu Changxing chatted with Gao He for a bit more and then prepared to leave. Gao Xiaoya, who had prepared the tea, saw that Lu Changxing was about to leave. She immediately called out, Hey, Uncle Lu, won't you sit for a while and have a cup of tea before you go? No, I still have things to do. Lu Changxing immediately gestured with his hand and headed out. He had no interest in meddling in their father-daughter affairs. As soon as he stepped out of the door, Lu Changxing heard Gao Xiaoya's loud, wailing voice and couldn't help but shake his head and smile wryly. In the blink of an eye, another half-month passed. The remaining 2 maids, Qing He and Shui Xian, also became pregnant. Lu Changxing arranged for Hai Tang and Bai He to take care of the daily chores. The other 7 maids all became pregnant within just over 4 months. There was also a month when Lu Changxing had been away at Qingzhou Mountain and not returned. Just as Lu Changxing was planning to visit White Jade Tower one of these days. A system notification suddenly sounded in his mind. Congratulations to the host for reaching a progeny count of 30, you've received 1 lottery chance. Chapter 116. The Great Tao should not be so narrow, nor should there be so few fellow Daoists. Understood? 30 children? The children in Jiu'er and Shu'er's wombs were born? Upon hearing this sudden system prompt, Lu Changxing couldn't help but feel invigorated, his face showing delight. He immediately knew that it was Jiu'er and Shu'er on Qingzhou Mountain who had given birth to their children. The lack of any throbbing sensation indicated that neither of the children possessed a spiritual root. I wonder what color hair and eyes the children have. Lu Changxing thought to himself. He had always been quite curious about this matter. He had even sought out related materials before. But the books didn't give a clear statement, only mentioning that this was mostly determined by the bloodlines of both parents. Not dwelling on this further, Lu Changsheng took a deep breath, slowly exhaled and murmured, "System, I want to draw a prize." Immediately, a faint red virtual prize wheel appeared. "I wonder what it'll draw this time." As Lu Changsheng looked at the prize wheel, he muttered to himself, and then said directly, "Start the draw." With a thought, the faint red wheel suddenly burst into a golden brilliance and started spinning. After 5 seconds, the golden light slowly diminished, turning notch by notch until it finally stopped on the Magical Treasures prize. Ding! Congratulations, host, for obtaining a magical treasure, Black Dragon Magical Bead. Reward has been issued to System Space. The host can check at any time. A black bead with a faint image of a flood dragon appearing and disappearing emerged from the prize wheel, accompanied by a system prompt sound. Magical treasure? Good heavens, I finally got something I wanted. Seeing the reward he drew this time, Lu Changsheng's eyes lit up as he showed a mixture of excitement and joy. From low to high, the magic artifacts used by cultivators are categorized as magic artifact, spiritual artifact, magical treasure, spiritual treasure, and heaven-reaching spiritual treasure. They correspond to different realms such as the Qi refinement realm, foundation establishment stage, core formation stage, nascent soul stage, and divinity transformation stage respectively. Only a nascent soul immortal can wield a magical treasure. Naturally, Lu Changsheng was unable to wield a magical treasure. However, the practice art he cultivated, 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art, allowed him to refine a magical treasure into his body to accelerate his cultivation. Previously, even a severely damaged fragment of a magical treasure had significantly advanced his 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art. With a whole magical treasure in hand, wouldn't he soar to new heights? Lu Changsheng immediately looked into the system space. He wanted to see what grade his newly obtained magical treasure was and what effects it had. Magical treasure, Black Dragon Magical Bead. Grade, Middle Grade Magical Treasure. Description, formed from a profound treasure bead as a container and refined with the soul of a third-rank evil flood dragon, it emits dark brilliance when activated, which can suppress the physical body and taint the mental spirit. When used to its extreme, it can command the soul of the evil flood dragon inside the bead to attack the enemy. The longer it is used, the more ferocious the evil flood dragons might become, making it harder to control. Black Dragon Magical Bead, a middle-grade magical treasure. It can burst with dark light, suppress the physical body, taint the mental spirit, and also control the soul of the evil flood dragon to attack. After reading the description and grade of the magical treasure, Lu Changsheng was very satisfied. He felt that a middle-grade magical treasure was already quite impressive. Reading the effect description of the magical treasure, he knew it was inclined towards attack. As for the functionality and effects of the magical treasure, Lu Changsheng wasn't too concerned. He had been hoping to obtain a magical treasure mainly for the practice of the 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art. As for the functionalities and effects, he felt they were of little consequence. Anything decent would do. However, having attack capabilities on this magical treasure is also good. After all, the treasure bone technique within the 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art says that by nourishing the treasure bones with a magical treasure, the bones can exhibit part of the power of the magical treasure. Once my treasure bones are nourished, perhaps I can directly wield the soul of the flood dragon inside the bead to slay enemies. Lu Changsheng licked his lips, quite looking forward to the effects of nourishing his treasure bones with this magical treasure. He thought about how, once his treasure bones were ready, facing danger, he could just activate the Black Dragon Magical Bead and command the soul of the flood dragon to strike at his enemies. Anyone seeing a cultivator at the Qi refinement realm or foundation establishment stage utilizing such a technique for attack would certainly be caught off guard and dumbfounded. Suddenly, with a thought, Lu Changsheng extracted the Black Dragon Magical Bead from the system space. A treasure bead the size of an adult's fist landed in Lu Changsheng's hands. The bead was heavy, likely weighing several hundred pounds. It felt slightly cool in his hand, but was not uncomfortably cold. The surface of the bead was extremely pure, devoid of any impurities, with only a faint flow of dark light. Inside the bead, a miniature ink-black flood dragon could be distinctly seen coiling around. So this is a magical treasure. Lu Changsheng curiously examined the black dragon magical bead in his hand. This was his first time seeing a magical treasure. However, after looking at it for a while, he didn't notice anything special and thought it was just SOSO. Lu Changsheng went to the rest room on the 3rd floor, ready to start refining the black dragon magical bead. He was eager to refine the bead into his body to cultivate with the 100 refinements treasure body art and nourish his treasure bones. After all, not long ago, he had successfully started the 100 refinements treasure body art, letting him vividly experience the benefits of body refinement, bringing forth strength and robustness. While his original body was quite good and very healthy, it was nothing compared to the feeling of body refinement success, with a body full of power and the ability to spend the night with 10 women. Lu Changsheng activated the 100 refinements treasure body art, utilizing his mental spirit and spiritual power to begin refining the black dragon magical bead before him. Under the refining of his mental spirit and spiritual power, the black dragon magical bead emitted streaks of black air, spiraling out and ascending. The soul of the evil flood dragon coiling inside also became animated at this moment, vivid and lifelike, as if it was about to break out of the bead. Lu Changsheng remained composed, knowing this was the activated state of the magical treasure, and continued to refine it with his mental spirit and mana. Chapter 117. The great Tao should not be so insignificant, one should not have so few Tao companions. Just like that, time trickled by. After a long while, Lu Changsheng opened his eyes with a wry smile and said, "Who would have thought that to refine this black dragon magical bead and merge it into my body would not be an easy task? With my current peak at the 6th level of energy refinement, trying to fully refine this treasure bead will probably take 2 to 3 months. During the refining process just now, his spiritual power was completely depleted, and yet he hadn't even managed to refine 1% of the bead. Having previous experience with refining a black metal block, he knew that acquiring magical treasures and wanting to refine them was no easy feat, but he hadn't expected it to be this difficult. 2 to 3 months then, since it's a magical treasure, requiring some time is normal, he said. Lu Changsheng exhaled lightly and stowed away the black dragon magical bead. He took out a spirit stone, sat down to cultivate, and recovered his spiritual power. He had yet to draw any talismans today. After his spiritual power had mostly recovered, Lu Changsheng took out the talisman-making tools and, in the talisman room, drew 2 middle-grade talismans and 2 superior-grade talismans. Now that his cultivation level was sufficient, there was no need to use top-grade talisman paper and ink for making superior-grade talismans. Ordinary superior-grade talismans could be drawn using advanced-level talisman paper and ink, which would also save quite a bit of cost. After all, continuously using top-grade paper and ink to draw talismans, but not being able to immediately convert them into spirit stones, could still be quite costly. After finishing making talismans, and seeing that it was getting dark, Lu Changsheng thought it was better to seize the day and decided to visit the White Jade Tower ahead of time. With over 300 spirit stones on him, he could afford to take in and help a few more unfortunate women. And he would also see if there were any such people with a spiritual root. After all, if he truly wanted to have more children with spiritual roots, it depended on having women with spiritual roots. Out of his 30 children, only 4 possessed a spiritual root. Among those 4, Chu Jinjin and Lu Miaoyan each had a child with one. The other wives had borne so many children, yet only 2 had a spiritual root. This inevitably made Lu Changsheng hold a sliver of hope for the children in the wombs of Xiao Yuyao, Xiao Qing, and Guan Xin. After informing the shopkeeper Zhang Shan, Lu Changsheng headed out toward the White Jade Tower. "Brother Lu, where are you off to?" Chapter 118. The great Tao should not be so insignificant, one should not have so few Tao companions. The woman's face, which had been filled with smiles just a moment ago, suddenly turned cold, and with a snort, she turned and left. Seeing this, Yu Maocheng sighed to the heavens, knowing he had been caught in his own trap again. He hurried after her, trying to appease. My wife, listen to my explanation. My love for you is as clear as the sun and moon. How could I possibly entertain such thoughts? It was just a joke. When Lu Changxing arrived at the White Jade Tower, the red-dressed girl who greeted him already remembered him. She immediately approached with a beaming smile and led him to a room on the second floor. Master Lu, it's been a long time. Jianyang has truly missed you. In the room, dressed in a black phoenix bird misty silk long dress and oozing charm, the seductive Feng Jianyang greeted Lu Changxing with a demure smile. Heh, Manager Feng, I've come this time to buy a few more maids. I wonder if the White Jade Tower currently has any spiritual root maids, preferably priced under 300 spirit stones. Lu Changsheng's gaze unconsciously swept over the fullness of her neckline and the plump thighs under her dress, then he spoke. Every time he came to the White Jade Tower and saw this Feng Jianyang, he couldn't help but exclaim that this woman was charming to the bone. This made him think, if she was just a manager at the Nine Dragons Market's White Jade Tower, how alluring the managers, or those higher up, in an immortal city, or at the headquarters might be. Master Lu, please enjoy the tea. I will go see if there is an appropriate candidate for you, Feng Jianyang said with a soft, alluring smile, not minding Lu Changsheng's gaze. After pouring tea for Lu Changsheng and bending over, she swayed her slender waist and clicked out of the room. Before long, Feng Jianyang returned, placed 2 jade slips on the table, and said, I've just checked, and currently, there are only 2 girls who meet Master Lu's requirements. Please see if you are interested. All right. Lu Changxing nodded, picked up a jade slip, and placed it on his forehead, sensing it with his spiritual mind. Immediately, he saw a 15 or 16-year-old girl with delicate features, a petite and adorable figure. Her cute face held a look of grievance and reluctance. Without thinking, he knew this girl must have been like Xiao Yuyao, ending up in the White Jade Tower due to various circumstances and reasons. And so, he intended to rescue them. Lu Changxing picked up the second jade slip. The image inside was of a 27 or 28-year-old woman with attractive features and a shapely figure, but she appeared somewhat weak, with a hint of numbness in her eyes. What are the circumstances of these 2 maids, and what are their prices? With his experiences from the previous 2 times, Lu Changxing was now quite experienced and asked directly. This woman has a Qi Refinement 2nd level cultivation level and possesses a 9th grade spiritual root. She is priced at 210 spirit stones. This woman has a 7th grade spiritual root but no cultivation level, and she is priced at 300 spirit stones. Feng Jianyang pointed to the 2 jade slips and introduced. Why does she have a 7th grade spiritual root but no cultivation level? And isn't the price for a 7th grade spiritual root more than this? Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng's eyebrows rose, questioning her. He had a general idea of the pricing for maids at the White Jade Tower. A maid with a 7th grade spiritual root would normally cost at least 500 or 600 spirit stones. This woman originally had a Qi Refinement 5th level cultivation level, but her Qi Ocean core was damaged, resulting in the loss of her cultivation level, which is why she has no cultivation level. And that is exactly why, despite having a 7th grade spiritual root, she only costs 300 spirit stones, explained Feng Jianyang. I see, said Lu Changxing, nodding slightly. No wonder when he had looked at her in the jade slip just now, she seemed somewhat fragile. Presumably, her body was only beginning to recover and was still weak. Looking at it this way, this young matron must have suffered much more than the young girl. In that case, he decided to choose to rescue this young matron. Without delay, Lu Changxing spoke. Please show me her detailed information, Manager Feng. Feng Jianyang brought out the information about this maid. Lu Changxing scrutinized it closely. The woman's name was Xiao Yu'er, 30 years old, much like Xiao Yuyao, from a small Qi refinement family. Because her family was destroyed, she ended up at the White Jade Tower. She had been injured in battle, damaging her Qi Ocean core, resulting in the dissipation of her cultivation level, and she was unable to cultivate further. There were no lingering side effects. She was capable of bearing children. However, she was not a virgin and had given birth to a child before. This should also be a factor in White Jade Tower's assessment of the price. Alright, I'll take her. After inspecting, Lu Changxing stated directly. Since he had come with the purpose of buying a maid, he didn't have many scruples. Moreover, she could be considered a decent woman. She wasn't like the celestial maidens from Drunk Immortal Pavilion or Spring Abundance Building, whose red lips had been tasted by thousands. As for cultivation level, Lu Changxing didn't care at all. What he valued was the woman's 7th grade spiritual root. If it weren't for the fact that this woman's Qi Ocean core was damaged, based on the previous prices at White Jade Tower, a woman with a 7th grade spiritual root would normally cost at least 500 to 600 spirit stones. In Lu Changxing's opinion, for him, this was quite the bargain. Immediately afterwards, Lu Changxing paid a deposit of 60 spirit stones and waited for the person to be delivered. He also spent 50 spirit stones to purchase 4 ordinary maids without spiritual roots. Lu Changxing asked White Jade Tower to send these 4 maids to his residence later on. He didn't want to take them back with him. Otherwise, it would be too conspicuous to walk down the street with them. For such a small request, Feng Jianyang readily agreed, indicating there was no problem. Just as he was about to leave White Jade Tower, Lu Changxing thought of something. He asked Feng Jianyang, "Manager Feng, does White Jade Tower have any women with a spiritual body?" About spiritual bodies, he had only read some brief mentions in books before. It was only because of the matter with the woman in the colorful dress that it occurred to him. Considering White Jade Tower had such extensive connections, there might be women with spiritual bodies. Feng Jianyang seemed slightly startled upon hearing this. Then she softly smiled coquettishly, "Of course we do." Lu Changxing was somewhat surprised upon hearing this. He hadn't expected that within White Jade Tower, there would indeed be women with a spiritual body. It seemed White Jade Tower was even more impressive than he had imagined. Seeing Lu Changxing's surprise, Feng Jianyang chuckled lightly and continued, "However, individuals with a spiritual body are extremely rare, 1 in 10,000, and even White Jade Tower doesn't see many of them. Plus, even if there are any, they are generally thinking of finding a Dao companion through White Jade Tower, hoping to marry a satisfactory gentleman. If young Master Lu is looking to spend spirit stones to buy a maid, I'm afraid he will be disappointed. Even we at White Jade Tower don't have many maids with a spiritual body, and many people come to us with reservations. If young Master Lu is interested, he can first pay a deposit, and when White Jade Tower finds someone with a spiritual body, we will notify him." With a charming smile on her face, Feng Jianyang spoke unhurriedly. "I was just asking casually." Hearing this, Lu Changxing was not really disappointed, as he found this more normal. Otherwise, if even women with spiritual bodies were being casually sold at White Jade Tower, their power would be quite terrifying. He didn't ask further. Now, women bearing a spiritual body were a bit out of reach for him, not something he could contemplate at this stage. If he happened to meet one, that would be more than good enough. But to spend money at White Jade Tower to buy a maid with a spiritual body, that was out of the question. With that money, he might as well buy a few maids with middle-grade spiritual roots. After all, the grade of the parents' spiritual roots directly affects the potential of their children's spiritual roots. If both parents have lower-grade spiritual roots, it is difficult to have children with middle-grade spiritual roots. If among the parents, one has a middle-grade spiritual root, then the probability of their children having middle-grade spiritual roots becomes much higher. Immediately after, under Feng Jianyang's escort, Lu Changxing left White Jade Tower. As Lu Changxing was on his way back, he heard a commotion from a nearby shop. Turning to look, he saw a familiar figure. P.S. Because I used to upload chapters right after writing them without saving any drafts, the update times were irregular. From now on, I'll update at this fixed time. Chapter 119. Do you have any strange habits? _1 within the Nimble Gown Pavilion. Second Miss Lu Miaohuan, holding a deep blue dress, prepared to pay. Lu Miaohuan, I already reserved that dress. Could you pick another one? Just then, a fair-skinned young lady around 18 or 19, with a petite figure, pressed her palm on the table and spoke indifferently. Zheng Yongshan, you say you reserved it and that means it's reserved? Did you pay for it? Second Miss Lu Miaohuan immediately frowned, her expression cold as ice, and spoke in a hostile tone. She then turned to the shopkeeper and asked, Shopkeeper, tell me, did she pay a deposit for this dress? The shopkeeper, clearly intimidated by the question, didn't want to offend either side. How many spirit stones? They'll pay you now. The young lady in the yellow dress let out a light snort. Seeing this, Lu Miaohuan immediately knew the other party hadn't paid a deposit. She couldn't help but sneer derisively, Miss Zheng, you said you'd reserved it, how come you haven't even paid a deposit? Did you reserve it with just your eyes? Lu Miaohuan, I haven't paid yet, and neither have you? I've reserved this dress, so it naturally belongs to me. The young lady in the yellow dress retorted defiantly. You haven't paid a deposit, and you call that reserved? According to Miss Zheng, does that mean if you just lay eyes on something, it's reserved? Then, in the Nine Dragons market, no one else needs to buy anything. Before purchasing anything, they should first check whether Miss Zheng has reserved it. Lu Miaohuan wore an expression of cold, noble beauty, looking down on others with a side eye, and spoke contemptuously, dripping with mockery. I've never said such a thing, Lu Miaohuan, don't twist my words. I've told you, I have my eyes on this dress, I've reserved it, so I've decided to buy it today. The young lady in the yellow dress raised her voice, speaking coldly as well. There was already a conflict between her and Lu Miaohuan, and they did not get along. Now, not only were her close girlfriends nearby, but the shop was full of people watching them. At this point, it was no longer just about a dress, but also about face. There was no way she could back down. Ladies, we will have new stock of this dress in 3 days. Why don't one of you wait? The shop is willing to offer a 20% discount at that time. The shopkeeper, faced with this scene, felt somewhat overwhelmed and spoke in a humble tone. However, neither of the ladies paid him any attention. For both women, it was no longer just about a dress at this time. Zheng Yongshan, I really can't understand, what exactly are you fighting me over? Lu Miaohuan glanced at the young lady in the yellow dress before her lips curled into a sneer, puffing up her impressive chest with utter disdain in her eyes as she said, Can you even wear this dress if you buy it? Don't you see yourself, flat in the front and flat in the back, just like a board? Whoosh, as soon as she said this, the other people in the shop gasped. They felt that for a woman, Lu Miaohuan's words were just too harsh, too damaging. Lu Miaohuan, you're going too far. Upon hearing these words, Zheng Yongshan was trembling with rage, her voice becoming shrill. Although petite and cute in stature, she was just starting to develop nicely. But compared to Lu Miaohuan, she suddenly seemed insignificant. Moreover, which female could remain calm and composed in the face of such humiliation? Too far? In just telling it like it is. Isn't there a mirror in this shop? Go take a look for yourself and you'll understand. Lu Miaohuan watched the young lady in the yellow dress' annoyed expression, laughed lightly with contempt filling her voice. Seeming to think her mockery wasn't sufficient, Lu Miaohuan, with her long legs, took a dress for a girl of about 10 from a rack nearby and said to the young lady in the yellow dress, Zheng Yongshan, I think this suits you quite well, why don't you try it on? If you can't afford it, don't just reserve it with your eyes, consider it a gift from me. Lu Miaohuan was already tall, and with her slim high-heeled shoes, she stood a full head and more above the young lady in the yellow dress. At this moment, she looked down upon her from her lofty height, speaking coldly and mockingly, pushing her derision to the extreme. Under such provocation from Lu Miaohuan, the young lady in the yellow dress anger flared up, unable to contain her humiliation and rage, she snapped. Her voice rose into a scream, Lu Miaohuan, I'm going to rip your mouth apart. In a state of extreme anger, people are capable of anything. Normally, Zheng Yongshan also had the temperament of a pampered young mistress, used to being coaxed and spoiled. Now, not only personally attacked but publicly humiliated, she completely lost her composure and raised her hand to strike Lu Miaohuan. Lu Miaohuan caught Jing Yongshan's palm in a swift motion and flung it away, saying, "Jing Yongshan, stop making a spectacle of yourself, I don't have time for your nonsense. Furthermore, your figure hasn't developed, just like a child's, and your fists are as soft as a child's. Go back and drink some milk from your mother to grow some body and strength." Whoosh! As these words came out, everyone in the store and the onlookers couldn't help but gasp in astonishment, marveling at the venom of the Lu family's young Mississippi Lu Changxing, who happened to be passing by the entrance, overheard Lu Miaohuan's words and his lips twitched. He suddenly felt that the younger Miss Prior treatment of himself, merely snorting at him with a disdainful face, was indeed quite generous and merciful. Otherwise, with such a biting tongue, he would have struggled not to retaliate. "Lu Miaohuan, I'm going to kill you." At that moment, Jing Yongshan, her eyes red with fury and spiritual power surging within her, let out a high-pitched scream. A fireball appeared in her hand, which she thrust towards Lu Miaohuan. Seeing this, the onlookers in the middle of the marketplace couldn't help but cry out in shock, some even screaming. Chapter 120. Do you have any strange habits? Not only is fighting forbidden in the Nine Dragons market, but at such a close distance, casting a spell leaves no time for a reaction. If Lu Miaohuan hadn't been wearing a magic artifact for protection, she might not have died from the fireball, but she would have been seriously injured. Not good. Lu Changxing, who had been watching the excitement like everyone else, was shocked at the scene unfolding before him. He hadn't expected the girl in the yellow skirt to actually make a move, let alone use a spell. He also realized that if Lu Miaohuan hadn't had a magic artifact to protect her, there would have been trouble. In an instant, he stepped forward, and bolstered by the green wind boots, his body turned into a blur, appearing in front of Lu Miaohuan, with his green robe billowing, displaying a body-protecting technique. The fireball hit Lu Changsheng's chest but was blocked by the protective spell on his robe. Lu Miaohuan was also stunned for a moment, not expecting Jing Yongshan to actually attempt to kill her, and she was surprised by Lu Changsheng's intervention. But in the next moment, she looked at the girl in the yellow skirt with a cold expression and said, "Jing Yongshan, you dare to attempt murder." As soon as she finished speaking, Lu Miaohuan's hand erupted with flames, and she slapped toward Jing Yongshan. However, a ding from Jing Yongshan's earring produced a faint glow, extinguishing the flames in Lu Miaohuan's hand, turning it into a crisp-sounding slap on her face. Lu Changxing was somewhat taken aback by this. It appeared the girl in the yellow skirt had the temperament of a spoilt young lady, acting without considering the consequences. But this second miss wasn't any better off, as the two were evenly matched in their recklessness. "Lu Miaohuan, I'm going to kill you." Zheng Yongshan was humiliated and enraged by the slap, her voice becoming sharp and almost hysterical as she fumbled in her storage bag for a talisman to activate. Damn it! Seeing the talisman, Lu Changxing immediately recognized it as a superior-grade talisman. He knew that the children of cultivation families always had some life-saving methods when out and about. If the two were to continue, the situation would escalate. Acting quickly, with a swift move, he snatched the talisman from her hand and said, "Miss, calm down, please calm down. Lu Changxing, step aside. I want to see if she has the ability to kill me." Although Lu Miaohuan didn't understand how Lu Changxing had appeared, she was equally angry, with two talismans appearing in her hand, ready to retaliate. "Shan Shan, sister, let it go, let it go." At this time, two of Jing Yongshan's close friends stepped forward to mediate. They hadn't expected a minor issue to lead to such a confrontation between Jing Yongshan and Lu Miaohuan. They couldn't just sit by and watch the situation escalate further. That would not only draw the attention of the Nine Dragons Marketplace's enforcers. If one of them got hurt, it would involve the families behind them, the Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain and the Zheng family of Wugong Ridge. "Second miss, let it go please." Seeing people persuading them, Lu Changsheng also promptly urged Lu Miaohuan to stop. He wouldn't have gotten involved if he hadn't seen the other party make a move, fearing that Lu Miaohuan might get into trouble. Now that he was involved, he couldn't just watch the two of them continue to quarrel and sought to defuse the situation. Umph. At his words, Lu Miaohuan snorted softly, putting away the talismans in her hands. She may have been impulsive, but she was not foolish and knew continuing the argument would make things difficult to resolve. Miss, let's stop here please. I apologize on behalf of the 2nd Mississippi. If we continue, the enforcers will be here soon. Although your families have some influence, you were the one who struck first, and it won't look good if things get out of hand. Lu Changxing, seeing Jing Yangshan's eyes red with rage, returned the talisman to her with a soft tone. Although he thought her attempt to kill was a serious problem. Such matters, if left to escalate further, wouldn't do either party any good. Eventually, one side had to back down and offer a way out, otherwise, there would be no end to it. Lu Changxing, I did no wrong, why apologize to her? Lu Miaohuan was not pleased when Lu Changxing apologized on her behalf to Jing Yongshan. My lady, please just do me a favor and keep quiet. Lu Changxing immediately said to Lu Miaohuan upon seeing Jing Yangshan's anger flaring up again. Lu Miaohuan, you just wait for this. Jing Yongshan regained her composure, aware of her impulsivity, took the talisman back from Lu Changxing, and coldly said, looking at Lu Miaohuan with reddened eyes. She was about to leave, then paused, turned back, and added, Lu Changxing, right? They'll remember you too. Lu Changxing was somewhat speechless at this. Always amicable, he never offended anyone, and he hadn't expected to be remembered over such an incident. Who's afraid? Lu Miaohuan was about to retort, not willing to yield, when Lu Changxing, seeing where this was headed, quickly covered her mouth to stop her. Allowing Lu Miaohuan to retort would probably lead to Jing Yongshan doing the same, and the argument would become never-ending. At this moment, Lu Changxing thought to himself that it was a miracle these young ladies had managed to live this long without someone killing them over their attitudes. Lu Miaohuan felt the warmth of Lu Changxing's palm on her mouth and was momentarily startled. She had never been so close to a man before, and Lu Changxing's actions made her nervous and flustered. Hastily removing his hand from her mouth, her face flushed with a hint of embarrassment, she said, Lu Changxing, what are you doing? Lu Changxing also felt the moisture of her lips against his palm. Realizing his behavior was a bit overboard and somewhat rude, he immediately showed a hint of apology and said, Sorry, I acted hastily in a moment of urgency. Please forgive me, 2nd Mississippi. Seeing this, Lu Changxing knew that the 2nd Miss thanking him must have taken some courage. He couldn't help but smile, catching up with her and saying, I heard it, I just thought I might have heard wrong. I wanted to confirm it, but if you're going to say thanks, shouldn't you show a little more gratitude? What do you want? Lu Miaohuan asked, her face cool and dignified. It's nothing much, just improve your attitude a bit and call me brother as a sign of thanks. Lu Changxing said jokingly. Lu Miaohuan was stunned by his words. She bit her lips slightly, her clear eyes showing surprise. A delicate blush spread over her exquisite, cold features, like that of a bashful young girl. She shot Lu Changxing a glance and uttered 3 words, In your dreams. Then, those long legs wrapped in black silk stockings, stepped in slender high heels, quickened their pace, her figure swaying enticingly. Lu Changxing was amused by Lu Miaohuan's half-annoyed, half-charming reproach and couldn't help but smile. He found teasing this seemingly aloof and noble 2nd Miss quite amusing. At that moment, Lu Changxing noticed that after walking briskly for a stretch, Lu Miaohuan's pace had slowed down again. She even walked slower and slower, at a pace well below that of a normal person. Seeing this, Lu Changxing's lips couldn't help but curl up slightly, revealing a trace of a smile, and he too slowed down his pace. He watched Lu Miaohuan move at such a slow pace, admiring the graceful and lithe figure of her from behind. It had to be said, the The second Miss figure, especially those long legs clad in black silk and high heels, was truly stunning. Only Feng Junyang of the White Jade Tower could compare. But such things, everyone has their own flavor. Lu Changsheng already had so many wives, maids, and concubines, especially the maids purchased from the White Jade Tower not long ago, who all had looks and figures that were top-notch, but in his eyes, compared to this second miss, they certainly lacked that certain flavor. When it comes to physical appearance, after a certain point, it's all about status, temperament, and other aspects. Lu Miaohuan walked slowly for a while, and upon seeing that Lu Changxing didn't catch up to coax her, she immediately felt some displeasure. She had walked away without paying him any attention, yet he didn't know to come and apologize. After walking slowly some more, Lu Miaohuan couldn't stand it any longer and decided to outright ignore Lu Changxing, promptly walking away at a normal pace. Seeing that Lu Miaohuan had resumed her normal speed, Lu Changxing immediately quickened his steps and in an instant came up beside her, giving her quite a scare. All I wanted was for you to say thanks with a better attitude, but if you don't want to, that's fine, why get angry? It's not polite at all. As a resident talisman master in the spiritual talisman shop, I often drink and chat with talisman masters and shopkeepers from other talisman shops, so I have a rough idea of the situation in the marketplace's talisman shops and the quality rate of their goods. Given the reputation of your Lu family's shop, the defects in these goods seem a bit unusual, especially for you, Brother Lu, who cancels contracts with different shops every few months. If this continues, I fear that you would have worked with every talisman master in the marketplace, Gao he started to say. Chapter 123, Stunning Beauty Like Wolves and Tigers, Breaking Down One's Will. Upon hearing these words, Lu Changxing immediately understood what Gao he meant. It was a sign that there were some issues with the supplies for the shop. Having been in the shop for so long, how could he not understand the ins and outs? The entire procurement, purchasing, and partnership of the spiritual talisman shop were left to the shopkeeper Zhang Shan alone. To claim there was not a hint of embezzlement or personal gain, he couldn't believe it at all. He had casually established a supplier title himself for collaboration. It obviously wouldn't be difficult for Zhang Shan to do the same. However, Zhang Shan had been working in the spiritual talisman shop for over 10 years, and his performance was decent for the most part of this past year, capable of doing things well. Hence, taking a little extra for oneself wasn't entirely indefensible. As long as it wasn't excessive, Lu Changxing was willing to turn a blind eye. After all, the clearest water has no fish. Thank you for the reminder, Brother Gao. I also understand the principles behind it, Lu Changxing said with a smile. It seems I've said too much, but then again, there isn't really any serious problem, said Gao Shan, realizing that his concern was unnecessary. Having interacted with Lu Changxing for so long and having a good relationship, he worried that Lu Changxing, being so young, might be kept in the dark, so he spoke out as a reminder. Brother Gao, willing to discuss this with me shows that you regard me, Lu Changxing, as a friend. Lu Changxing waved his hand, knowing Gao he meant well. He also knew what kind of person Gao he was, or else he wouldn't have asked him for help. Soon after, the two left the shop with a laugh and went to the Jade Meal Pavilion for a meal. Upon seeing the two, the owner of the Jade Meal Pavilion, Yu Maoqing, gave them a 20% discount and even offered a plate of appetizers for free. 3 days later, second elder, Sister Miaoga, Lu Changxing was bathing in the backyard. Upon hearing from the maid, Bai He, that the second elder and the young lady had come to visit, he promptly went to the living room. He, I originally intended to notify you to come directly to the great residence to stay, as we will be departing for Qingzhou Mountain early tomorrow morning. However, I thought you've been living by yourself for such a long time without us visiting, so we decided to come and see you. I hope we haven't disturbed you? In the hall, the second elder, clad in a green robe with a tall figure, held tea in his hand and said with a chuckle. Sister Miaoga, Lu Miaoga, sat elegantly in white to the side. How could that be? Although he hadn't felt this in his daily life, nor did he find it embarrassing, being questioned by the second elder brought up some embarrassment after all. After all, the latter was an elder to him. Especially with Lu Miaoga also present. Ah, the second elder sighed upon hearing this, shaking his head. At that moment, he gained a deeper understanding of Lu Changsheng's reputation at Qingzhou Mountain for marrying and indulging in the pleasure of many wives and concubines. He coughed lightly and then said to Lu Changsheng, Changsheng, the allure of beauty can be like wolves and tigers, eroding one's resolve. It is natural to occasionally enjoy and relax, but do not indulge too much in this, and instead, focus your time and energy on cultivation and the talisman path. The second elder spoke earnestly. Such matters, while outrageous, were a bit excessive. One and a half days later, the flying boat landed in front of Qingzhou Mountain. As everyone disembarked, Lu Changsheng cupped his hands in farewell and headed straight for his home. Husband, the husband is back. Daddy, daddy, daddy. Just as Lu Changsheng walked into the courtyard, his wives and concubines and several children inside saw him and called out joyfully, crowding around him and hugging him. This scene brought a smile to Lu Changsheng's face, filled with warmth, as he picked up the two children who ran over. However, facing so many children, he could only put them down immediately, taking turns hugging each child. He also embraced his several wives. Although he had many maidservants in the Nine Dragons market, he missed the warm feeling of being with his wives and children here. He had been with his wives and children here for so many years, and they had developed a lot of affection for each other. Before long, Lu Miaoyan and Chu Zhenjin among other women also came with their children, their eyes filled with tender love as they approached Lu Changsheng. Lu Changsheng noticed that the little ones in their arms seemed to have grown a bit, very adorable. He then looked at the children of Shu'er and Zhou. Both children had hair like their mothers. One red, one blue. But their pupils were black. Seeing his two somewhat unconventional children, Lu Changsheng also found them quite cute. Then, Lu Changsheng spent time playing with the children and chatting with his wives, listening to some of their stories and sharing his own. Meanwhile, within Qingzhou Valley, at another estate. Second brother, are you telling me that since Changsheng moved out to live on his own in the Nine Dragons market, he has been indulging in the pleasures of women day in and day out, not only taking in a bunch of concubines but also getting each and every one of them pregnant? With more than a dozen children? The fourth elder asked in surprise after hearing the second elder's words, finding it hard to believe. She was different from the second elder. Having interacted with Lu Changsheng for so long, she knew he liked having children, but she didn't imagine him to be addicted to the pleasures of the flesh. Usually he was very diligent and serious in his cultivation and talisman making. But now, hearing the second elder's words, she didn't know what to say. Because, in her view, this behavior was indeed a bit over the top. Originally, when the Lu family took a son-in-law by marriage, they only asked for 50 children in 20 years. Yet, in just over half a year, Lu Changsheng had impregnated 11. If he continued at this rate, would he still cultivate or practice talisman making? Do I look like someone who likes to joke around? The second elder saw the fourth elder's disbelief and immediately said, Miaoga was there at the time, she also saw everything, you can ask Miaoga if you don't believe me. Chapter 126. I'm not pretending anymore, actually I am a spiritual body. So it went as the family of four walked home, with Lu Changsheng carrying two children, and Lu Miaoyan leading the other two by the hand. So, What has your teacher been teaching you at school? Lu Changxing asked aloud. He was quite curious about what the erudite tutor hired by the Lu family usually taught the children. He worried that the education within such a cultivation family might involve brainwashing from a young age, indoctrinating the children to be loyal to the family and such. Soon enough, the children began chirping to Lu Changxing about their lessons, all while munching on candied haws. It was basic enlightenment education for children, teaching them reading and writing, without any trace of brainwashing. Listening to his children's stories, Lu Changxing felt a lot more at ease. That night, a separation can be sweeter than a honeymoon. During Lu Changxing's previous visit home, Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjin were pregnant and couldn't share his bed. This time, Lu Changxing naturally had to make up for it. He also wanted to show the two women the strength he had gained from his recent success in body refinement. The next day, well past sunrise, Lu Changxing heard a knock at the door. After being told the fourth elder had come to visit, he dressed with the help of Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjin and proceeded to the living room. Grandma! Grandma! When Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoyun arrived in the living room, they immediately saw the fourth elder clad in a green dress, her black hair flecked with silver, lovingly cradling a baby in her arms. It didn't take much thought to realize she was holding Lu Yun. Although the fourth elder was fond of Lu Changxing, she didn't extend this affection to every one of his children. It was just that she had a particular fondness for the great-grandson born to her granddaughter. Hee, it seems Grandma has come at an inappropriate time, the fourth elder said with a chuckle, lifting her gaze to the couple. She could tell at a glance that her granddaughter and grandson-in-law had probably just risen from bed and teased them with her remark. Lu Miaoyun blushed at the comment. Changxing only returned yesterday, and he was preoccupied with accompanying his wives and children. He neglected to visit Grandma, and hopes for her understanding, Lu Changxing said, his demeanor easy and composed. He sensed the fourth elder's visit wasn't just a simple check-in on her great-grandson. Otherwise, there would have been no need to inform him and Lu Miaoyun. Hee, Grandma was just missing my dear great-grandson and thought to visit, seeing as you, Changxing, have returned, the fourth elder said heartily.